Good evening and welcome to the May 22nd, 2018 regular City Council meeting. Before we begin the meeting, let me review the procedures for the meeting. The audience is reminded that this is a business meeting of the City Council, therefore clapping, cheering, and outbursts are not permitted. Speakers must complete a request to speak form located at the entrance to the council chamber. Submit your completed form to either the city clerk or the sergeant at arms. When your name has been called, use the microphone at the lectern on the audience's right and state your name and address. If you do not wish to publicly state your street address, you may state only your city or unincorporated Brevard County. Speak to City Council as a body. Do not address the mayor and City Council members individually. Be mindful of the timer at the front of the room and wrap up your comments before your speaking time ends. The following time limits will generally apply. Speaking times may be varied by the mayor with the approval of City Council. Public comments and agenda items and the consent agenda up to 3 minutes. Items designated as a public hearing and petitions, remonstrances, and communications up to 5 minutes. An applicant, representative, or person who has legal standing to support or oppose a quasi-judicial matter will be permitted enough time as reasonably determined by the City Council to create a record before the City Council. These matters generally include site plan, plat, zoning of property, conditional use, variance, building-related permit or appeal, abandon and vacate requests, annexation, and other applications of law to the specific properties. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll begin the invocation with Pastor Dupree Williams, Chief Cornerstone Missionary Baptist Church. If you wish to participate in the invocation, please stand. Welcome.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful opportunity to come together. Lord, we thank you right now for the health and strength that we all have. And we ask now that you touch our hearts and minds, that we be liberal but respectful, Father, to one another. Thank you, Father, for this great town, this city, and all those that come together to make up it, Father, as a municipality. We ask now that you touch us. Allow us to continue to work together in the spirit of love and unity, as you have so shown us in agape love. We ask now, Father, that you continue to touch the head of this council, Lord God. Allow their minds and allow their hearts to hear the tone, Father, of the people, Lord, as you guide them to make grave decisions and to lead us into great heights in times like these. We ask, Father, that you just touch those who may be bereaved right now, Father. Look up on the different things going on in all the fair cities across, Father, this country. And we ask that all things be done decent and in order. In thy Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Williams. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item A3, roll call, Ms. Weiser.
Councilmember Moore.
Present.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Present.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Here.
Mayor Meehan.
Here, thank you. A4, proclamations and presentations. Right, thank you, Kathy. So the first one is a proclamation recognizing May 25th to the 27th, 2018 as the third annual Melbourne Founders Festival Days. And to accept this is Reverend Lorenzo Laws from the Greater Allen Chapel AME Church. Oh, good to see you, Reverend.
You as well.
All right.
Bless you. Yes, sir.
Proclamation, City of Melbourne, Florida, whereas the first settlers of Melbourne, Peter Wright, Wright brothers, and Balaam Allen, were black freedmen who settled on land south of Crane Creek in 1867 following the Civil War. And whereas in 1880, the area's first post office was established on the land where they settled, and by the drawing of straws, the area was named Melbourne. And whereas in 1885, two of the first settlers, Wright brothers and Balaam Allen, along with the members of the Lipscomb family, founded the Greater Allen Chapel AME Church. And whereas Greater Allen Chapel AME Church will be honoring the early history of Melbourne during the third annual Melbourne Founders Festival on May 25th through 27th, 2018. And whereas the festival will commemorate the rich history of the first settlers of Melbourne, their contributions to the establishment of the community, and their founding of the Greater Allen Chapel AME Church, which has been ministering to the residents in Melbourne for over 133 years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor, City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby recognize May 25th through the 27th, 2018 as the third annual Melbourne Founders Festival Days in the City of Melbourne and invite all residents to celebrate the rich history, tradition, and heritage of Melbourne. Witness my hand in the seal of the city this 22nd day of May, 2018, Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, is it possible for all those from Allen Chapel to come?
Oh.
Come. Come.
Now I know what they're here for.
And they all need to get in a picture. Everybody needs to get in a picture on this one.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think they're all gonna fit.
It'll be tight, but they can get it.
Yeah. Somebody suck it in. Oh.
All right, there we go. 1, 2, and 3. All right.
Where's your regular email? Okay, there we go. Did you download it yet? You haven't downloaded it.
Thank you, sir.
On my desktop. Would have been the date that they would have sent it.
Next is
Wait.
the recognition of recognizing the 125th anniversary of St. James Missionary Baptist Church.
I only saw one here.
All right, is Minister Neil Street here from the St. James Missionary Baptist Church?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. All right, very good. And this is the City of Melbourne Certificate of Recognition presented to St. James Missionary Baptist Church, 125th anniversary. The mayor and city council commend the church and the members for continually working to make Melbourne a better community and extend best wishes for many more years of faith, joy, and dedication. Witness my signature in the seal of the City of Melbourne, Florida, this 22nd day of May, 2018. Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we're so proud of your church.
Amen.
Okay, item A5, approval of the minutes of May 1st, 2018 workshop meeting and May 8th, 2018 regular meeting. Council, what is your pleasure?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Thomas?
recommend approval of items 5A and 5B, approval of the minutes.
All right.
Second, ma'am.
All right, I have a motion for approval of the minutes of May 1st and May 8th by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item A6, City Manager's Report. Mr. McNeese.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two things I need to bring you up to date on that have developed since your agenda went to print, and both of them are fairly significant. You are aware that the interlocal agreement that we have with Brevard County for the reconstruction of Babcock Street had run into a stormwater snag, and worked with the county manager, and what I ultimately proposed to him was that rather than arm wrestle over whose responsibility it was to deal with the stormwater problem that came along with the road, we consider extending the CRA one more year and using that money to just fix it. And we had some conversations, and what I agreed to bring forth to you is a 1-year extension of the CRA, which, as you'll recall, we're upfronting the money as a loan to the CRA. So we'll add to that loan, but we'll also upfront a couple $100,000 to do this stormwater work. And they've agreed and actually had their half of that interlocal agreement approved today by the county commission. So we'll have it on your agenda in 2 weeks. We'll agree to go ahead and take the road, do the improvements, and then we've agreed that every bit of the money that's raised in that now final year of the CRA's existence will be put into either that road or the drainage around it. And they're happy with that. Staff is happy with that, and we'll bring that to you in 2 weeks, and then we'll be ready to get moving on that road reconstruction. So that speed bump has been smoothed out. It's on the way, and we've got that one, I think, resolved. The second one is, you're well aware that there's been a lot of conversation about school safety here in Brevard County, as well as the rest of the nation. And there have been some different proposals made at the school board level about exactly how they want to get increased levels of security or safety or guards in the schools. We received from the school board, the police chief, I think, got it earlier last week. I got a copy of it on Thursday of last week, a memorandum of understanding that would put school resource officers, it would be up to 16 we would have to provide. We're just beginning to review it and understand it. It's clearly, the issue is very problematic because the bottom line is no one has funding really to provide for these individuals. I know the school board has looked at some options. I don't have anything definitive to tell you except that we have this memorandum of understanding that's been proposed. Chief's looked at it in detail, and I'm just getting into it myself. And as this moves forward, we'll try to keep you in the loop. But so far, there's no concrete solution on the table. There's certainly nothing here we could say, yes, we can endorse it, because it's an amount of money that we don't have anywhere near available to us. So it's going to be a tricky problem to solve. And the chief's been in that conversation with the sheriff and with the school board, as have I. And we'll try to keep you up to date as proposals are. I mean, the newspaper's doing a really good job, I think, of keeping everybody up to speed on what is the state of the conversation. It shifts pretty regularly as everybody grapples with the funding issues. But and there are political issues, there are funding issues, there are logistical issues, and so it's just it's a tough one to wrestle with. But everyone appreciates the urgency of it. This is not something we want to let drag. Fortunately, school's about out for the summer, and but the mandates of the legislature on what's to be provided in the schools don't go away, and the clock is ticking on that. So we'll be working that as we go forward.
All right, thank you, Mr. McNeese. Any questions for Mr. McNeese? Mr. Alfrey?
Yes, real quick, Mr. McNeese, well, regarding the CRA, extend that for an additional another year. I think that's a good solution, in my opinion, on taking care of the stormwater issue. But my question is, when 16 additional officers, how many are we down now? Because that'd be
Not quite that many, but it's kind of in flux. We were at 14 or 15 a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, that is, when I said there are logistical issues, that is one of the huge issues. When you look at departments countywide and how they're already short. If everybody had to hire 5 to 10 to 15 more officers just for this purpose in each city, we don't know where we'd get them in the first place. So
Yeah, I knew in the county, I think we're down nearly 80 for officers.
even if the money were there, the bodies aren't. So
Bodies aren't.
that's one of the things that makes it so difficult to resolve.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're exactly
That's all
right.
Madam Mayor.
All right, Mr. Thomas.
So that's going to be 2 per school now with the new program? Is it 2 per school?
I can't answer that yet, and we have to get into it. I think the number 16 provides for 1 per school, including all the elementary and middle schools. But that's what we've got to get into and see what the detail is and how it would work.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none. Next is public comments. Do I have any sign-up sheets, Ms. Weiser? Okay, a boatload, okay, all right. First is Jennifer Cleveland, and you can state your city, Ms. Cleveland.
Down. Hi everyone. I'm Jennifer Cleveland, Melbourne, Florida. I'm here today because I'm trying to build new construction in downtown, and the lot just had a house torn down on it, and it has electricity and water and sewer already run to it. However, I'm being charged an impact fee of over I think it's about $8,500, which is putting us over budget. And I'm visually impaired. I will be living alone, paying the mortgage on my disability, and I can't afford it with that impact fee. So that's what's holding us up right now. So I'm here to request that the impact fee be removed if possible, or at least reduced. Like I said, it already has everything hooked up to it now that the impact fee is supposed to cover and pay for. I've also met with quite a few of the neighbors on the street, and they're really excited about having the new construction. It's going to bring a lot of value to the area, and they want it. They want it as soon as possible, and so do I. So anything you all can do to help would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
All right.
Mayor.
Ms. Moore.
I spoke with Mr. McNeese, actually by text message, and we discussed this, and I realized that this is not a norm situation that we would address, but I would like my city to look at this. This is an area that we are attempting to, I'm going to use the word redevelop in downtown. And I'm glad to see that someone is putting up new construction. Because I have seen a lot of signs, and Mayor, if you will correct me on what they say.
This place matters.
This place matters, thank you. And there was the reason for this because, help me with this.
Oh, because of some of the issues that were in the neighborhood.
Because of some of the issues that were in the neighborhood. And so I commend Jennifer for wanting to put a new construction there. So I'd like the city to look at this and see if there's anything we can do. I'm sure we cannot reduce them all the way, but let's look to see if we cannot reduce them to some degree to get this construction started.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Mr. McNeese? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Lopez?
Yes, and not just that, as she said, there was a building already or a home already on the property, so they must have originally paid an impact fee. So I'm looking at, redundant here and costs here as well. I mean, they already paid the impact fee, so I don't think they should be paying the full impact of that amount as well. And since the sewer is still there, and the water, so, it should be less cost for the city to, allow them to do this.
Okay. Mr. McNeese?
Well, I don't know how much you want me to get into specifics of this individual case. I'm told by staff that there was a permit pulled at some point in the past, or a house that was torn down and at some point, a refund was requested for impact fees previously paid and was granted.
That was not me, though. That was the,
So that the impact fees, had they been paid, would vest with the property, but those have since been refunded.
Oh.
So
All right. Ms. Cleveland, you're out of order. Okay.
So there are no paid impact fees that would vest with the property. Now, I believe even if there were, there's a time frame with which that grandfathering or that vesting expires, but that's not the issue here, so we don't have to worry about that. So the question becomes then, do you want to, and we're not talking about an impact fee, we're talking about a water impact fee, a sewer impact fee, a transportation impact fee, and then a couple of building permit fees that run in the hundreds, the sum total of all of it for a single-family building permit, for which there is no application yet at this point. But the last one that was considered, the total was about $8,000 for all those fees. The question is, no, you really can't just waive them, because you're saying you don't have a program for that. You can't just randomly say this individual doesn't have to pay. Then you have no legal authority really to make anybody pay, because you haven't established a hardship program. You don't have any criteria for that. Your ordinance doesn't allow for that. So the question you would need to ask is, if you want to provide some relief here, do you want to set up a program for hardship? Which is something you could certainly do. You could set some money aside in your general fund and say you want to provide a hardship program, but you need to give us some guidance on what do you want the criteria to be. It has to be more than just someone saying, well, I can't afford these fees. Can you waive them for me, without some criteria for that? Or is it income driven? Is it disability driven? Is it, what do you want that to look like? Because although it was said a minute ago that this is an unprecedented situation, I can't remember the exact word, it really isn't. You get requests like this fairly often, that for this reason, that individual or this organization can't afford the fees, can we waive them? And this is a fairly common thing. So if you want to go down this road, which is certainly within your purview, I'd recommend you set up some sort of a hardship program. Give us some guidance on what you want it to look like, how much money you want to put in it, and what criteria you want to set up to make someone eligible to have the city pay the fees for them, which is what would be really the only valid way to get there. And I see the city attorney kind of nodding, and that I'm on solid ground.
All right,
Mayor?
so, yeah, Mr. Alfrey.
And actually, I would probably be for if we could do something on like maybe some program. Also, my question is, do we know of any other programs that could assist Ms. Cleveland? There's a lot of good 501c3s out there. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good here. I'm just surprised we don't have anybody, or maybe we can get somebody as a city, because as we're redeveloping and we're bringing, quality people and, quality homes in, I mean, we do put a lot of money out when it comes to redeveloping. I just think there needs to be some kind of assistance or something to help people in this matter. Can we look into that and see if we can find something? I mean, we have like the home program, we have a bunch of the ship funds, everything. So I'm just surprised there's just not something for this.
Well, that was the thought I had, and I think I copied council in on some of the correspondence, that maybe we can be of assistance in finding another resource, maybe at home or ship, or at one of those housing assistance programs, or something even external to government. But we'd be happy to put some resources into trying to help find, is there some resource out there?
Yeah, that'd be, if we could do that. Do you agree with that, Mayor? Maybe
Yes.
we can.
I even thought, well, we'll do a GoFundMe, not us, but if Jennifer could do a GoFundMe account or something, because we're going to set a precedence here if we don't get this, a program established. And then we're going to be picking and choosing. And I've got people come up to me and ask, and we just don't have a program for that.
Mayor,
Yeah.
this is the first time it has come, I've been in council since 2012, and this is the first time it has come up to council for this discussion. So I'm glad that we're having this. I'm sorry that Ms. Cleveland is going to have to wait before she can start her house. That's the only thing that really bothers me. And as far as the money being refunded, I think it needs a little clarification. That was another builder that did not develop the property and they're the ones who asked for their deposit back. It was not Miss Cleveland. This is a whole new situation right now. So I would like to see what we can do on this, and
Okay. Well, we'll look into the hardship aspect of it and bring it back.
Yeah, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I like the idea of having the city look into establishing some type of hardship program as well. I think folks in Ms. Cleveland's situation definitely need some help, and I'd like to see what we could do to do that. So I'd definitely be in favor of that. So,
Okay.
Mayor?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Minus.
I too agree. If we can set up a hardship program, I've had several people to come up to me, organizations, asking to have their impact fees waived, and I've talked to the city manager. So it hasn't come before council, but it has come up several times. So I think that's a good idea to see if we can set up the hardship program.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, hold on,
I'm
Ms. Moore.
sorry.
I've got Ms. Thomas.
I would agree. I would like to see this hardship program come before us, but along with that, I do think that it would be important for each one of us maybe to get with the city manager and let him know some of our criteria for that. I know for myself in my district, I have a church that is pretty much having the same problem, different scenario, but same problem. So it would be nice that, I think it would also help Mr. McNeese, because I'm certainly sure he probably hears from each one of us quite a bit on this subject. So maybe we can solve that.
Okay. All right,
Mayor?
Ms. Lopez.
Yes, I happen to agree. We should be doing something for special residents that need our help. I mean, we did it for the developers. We waived the impact fees for developers for a certain period of time, so now it's time to help our residents, so.
Okay. All right, Ms. Allison.
There's an important distinction here that I want to make sure everyone is aware of. The waiver that we had before was to all impact fees. So it's important to understand that in this case, you can waive all impact fees, as you did before. If you're not waiving all of them, then it's a matter of funding your program. There is no such thing as waiving based on a hardship. That's not allowed by law. So you'll be identifying money in your budget to go into your program and then determining the criteria of who gets the grant under your program. So I just need people to understand that that's the decision that you're making.
And let me clarify one thing. You didn't ever waive all of your impact fees. You waived the transportation impact fees for everyone. Right. You never waived your water and sewer impact fees, only transportation impact fees, but that it has to be either for everyone or for no one.
And that actually reminds me of an important point. We probably have bond covenants that prohibit us waiving some of the water sewer impact fees, that we would want to make sure we don't violate those bond covenants.
That's why I suggest you can certainly pay them on someone's behalf if you choose out of your general fund. That's something that's within your power, but you have to set aside that amount of money.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Mayor.
Yeah, Ms. Moore.
I think when we start looking at this, I think we probably will have to, we're not looking to waive impact fees on a $500,000 house or a $300,000 house. We're looking at waiving them on a modest home. And I think that's what Ms. Cleveland is building. I don't know the value, but I assume it's a modest home. And I realize we have, this is, out there, but I think there comes a time when we need to consider giving back to our residents.
All right, so I guess, I don't know how you can discriminate between modest and high-end and medium-end, but we'll have Ms. Dolly figure that out. All right. All right, so Ms. Cleveland, I don't know when it's going to be, but, we'll have to bring back the program, so I don't know how long that's time frame.
Well, I suggest that the time really to discuss would be at budget time when you talk about how much money do you want to put into the pot. That's going to be the critical question.
Okay.
Now, Mayor, one
Yeah,
last thing,
Miss-
is
Mr. Alfrey.
she on hold
Yes,
for building? So she basically can't build at all because of the impact fees?
Right.
that's right.
Because
That's
that,
why she's here today.
yeah. So I'm wondering what I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a tough
Yes.
because she's on the holding pattern
I know.
for the impact fees. I mean, do we give a time amount to, a time allowance to get the impact fees paid?
By ordinance.
And so the other straight up
By ordinance, yes.
ordinance. Now,
They
what,
pay them when they pull the permit, I believe.
right, now, the mayor, what if we had some kind of, and when I talk about hardship program, if we did something where on a hardship, we could basically cut those into payments or something? I mean, we could do something like that, where we could say, look, you can get started and you pay X amount a month or something, under the hardship program. And it would have to, I would want it to be a stringent hardship program, that it's a real hardship program. But that we say, because people want to pay their taxes, they want to pay what's due. But I hate to think that government's getting in the way for someone to build a home because they have a hardship, a real hardship. I just, it kind of baffles me on this. So, I mean, what's the council's thought on that? Is that possible, Mr. McNeese?
I think so.
I'm sorry, would you, I didn't hear the last part of your question.
Maybe on something on a hardship where we do some kind of payment program for those impact fees. So we do get our impact fees.
A payment program is something that we could certainly look into. I have to, again, the bond covenants are going to come into play and make sure that we're not violating anything there. I suspect you could do some sort of a payment plan.
Right.
Here's the really slippery slope we're on here.
Mm-hmm.
If I come to you and say, I can't afford to build a house on a lot downtown, but perhaps there's a lot somewhere else in the city of Melbourne that I could afford to build a house on, say that lot cost $8,000 less. The impact fees would be the same. I could afford that. Would I qualify for hardship because I want to buy a more expensive lot in a part of town where the lots are $8,000 more? Well, there's my impact fee money. That's where, when you start to measure need and I can or can't afford, it gets pretty tricky. And how many square feet of house are you building? How many, 1 or 2 car garage are you building? And he's saying, well, I can't afford it because the impact fee is $8,000. It's just, this is really slippery slope ground when you start to decide who you're going to pay the fees for. And it can be done, but it's going to take some diligent work to define
it wouldn't be to
But
pay the
your
fee.
idea of having a payment plan is probably something that could help with that.
That we could probably
regardless.
satisfy our bond program and we can still collect the impact fee and to the point where they can get started and, something in that, I mean, in that manner, because it just seems like right now we really don't have any solutions. And I would hate to think that I leave at the end of the night going, we didn't come up with some good solutions for
Counsel, for background, I'm going to play amateur attorney here, and Allison can throw something at me if I get off ground. One of the things that's helpful to understand here is the nature of impact fees. They are a very heartless phenomenon, and they are intended, if some of us, if you go back far enough in Florida, remember when the rallying cry for everybody was make growth pay for growth. Make a new unit pay for the costs of providing governmental services to that unit. From that, make growth pay for growth is where the concept of impact fees came. And the way it's designed is, if it costs X dollars to build enough water plant to provide service to one home and to build a sewer plant to provide service to one home, then the person building that home pays into the system enough for that much of their capacity. And the courts have been very specific in what can and can't be done in an impact fee program. One of the things the impact fee program has to do is draw a very clear line between what it costs to build that unit of service in the water plant and what you charge that resident who's building the house. It has to be very clearly defensible. There has to be a very clear connection between those two things. For that reason, when you get into deciding, well, this one has to pay and this one doesn't, you put those things in jeopardy. You put the integrity of the whole program in jeopardy because the courts have been very clear about how those programs have to work. And that's where we are here. So as we put the idea of a payment plan, I think that's probably the most practical way maybe to get some immediate relief, and be happy to look into that. There might be a model for it somewhere. Someone else may have already done it.
So then I would like, if you would look into that, so we can maybe bring that back to council and discuss on that kind of method. Maybe this could be a win-win for, we can keep the impact fees to pay for services as well as give some relief to people that really need it. So if we could look at that and give me a report on that, I'd appreciate it. That's all I have.
And the way that would be structured then is that, if I'm understanding you correctly, is that they would be able to pull their permit, start their construction, but by the time they get their CO, their certificate of occupancy, the impact fee has to have been paid by that point.
No. It's too soon.
So
No, that's
just
too
to be
soon.
clear, in my experience, if you don't get it then, you will not get it.
You have to have leverage. You have to have some sort of collateral, right?
Yeah, Mayor, I need to ask
Yeah.
the city manager a question. Mr. McNeese, I sent you a text asking you if this impact fee, hypothetically $8,000, is the same on a $200,000 house as a $500,000 house. And I think you went out of town, and I didn't get an answer back. So that's what I need to know.
I'm smiling because I wonder what the guy who actually got that text message is wondering about what that question was all about. 'Cause it didn't come to me.
He didn't answer me. Let me just put it that way, so.
It depends on the fee, and generally speaking, it's not about the cost of the construction. For example, with the water and sewer impact fees, it's more to do with the number of fixtures, toilets, sinks, that sort of thing. The size of the meter, I believe, is probably drives that somewhat. On transportation, it's more about square footage of the construction, not just about, so those things correlate. The cost obviously goes up as the square footage goes up, but they're not driven by cost per se. They're driven by different things. Allison may have.
I would just add one thing. That's generally how it operates for commercial properties, but for residential, I believe it's a flat fee. Is that correct, Cindy?
Yes, transportation to single-family home is the same rate, whether it's a 1,000 square foot home or a 5,000 square foot home.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
I think this has been a great conversation. I would like to see with the, obviously it does sound like there could be a little bit of a slippery slope going here, so I would really like the attorney and city manager to go ahead and look at this and bring back as an agenda item to us with all the different information, along with some criteria that may be set on how somehow we can be helping some of our citizens that are in real need be able to build what they want to build and do what they need to do.
Okay.
Mayor.
All right, Ms. Moore.
I would, with your permission, I would like to ask Ms. Cleveland the size of the house that she's proposing, but that will bring her back a
Yeah,
second
Ms.
time.
Cleveland, I need you back at the podium, please.
The size, if we can get the impact fees reduced, would be 1,200 square feet. If not, we'll have to, it'll be around 1,000 or 900 square feet.
How many bedrooms and how many baths?
If we can get the impact fees reduced, my builder is donating his services. He's building the house for free for me. He wants to build a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a 2-car garage. If we can't, then we're going to have to lose one of the bedrooms, bathrooms, something like that, and build a much smaller home, which in turn will not be as valuable to the neighborhood. But that way it stays within my budget of what I can easily afford. But
I have a question for her. When you said your builder is building it for free, but that does not include materials.
correct, no, I'm having to pay for I'm paying for that. I'm getting the mortgage for all that, but his services, he's donating his services, his general contractor services. So I'm paying for the house.
I just wanted a clarification so that everybody realized that you do have an investment in this property. Besides the lot, you also have an investment in all the materials.
Yes, absolutely. And I was able to purchase the lot with my father's inheritance. And the reason that I'm in downtown is because I am visually impaired. And in downtown, I can walk to all the restaurants, to shops. I'm not isolated. I'm not alone, and I have independence. And the buses come through here, so I can catch a bus and go to the grocery store, and get to my doctors, which I couldn't do before in any other lot if I were to build somewhere else. Downtown offers me as a visually impaired person the freedom and the independence that I need very badly.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Cleveland.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So we'll wait for the hardship program. All right.
And we'll take any
Next.
donations that are out there.
Okay. Okay, next is Jim Stivers. Followed by J.C. Stivers.
Hi, Mayor and Honorable Council. My name's Jim Stivers. I live in Brevard County. I've been a resident here since 1979. I enjoy coming into City Hall. It brings back all the memories of how proud I was when we built this place.
Yes.
And I have no artistic and no musical talent. And I'm in awe of people that do. And I'm here to talk about the project on all the murals that went up in O'Galley, and specifically the one that's on the old bank building behind Starbucks. I've personally talked to a number of parents that I've met there when they were taking pictures of their kids, and I've never heard one negative thought from parents. All the children I've seen there enjoy the cartoon characters and like it. I've heard that there's negative comments from another group that want to say it's violent or it's this and that, and then I think about some of the cartoons like the Road Runner with Daffy Duck and where they're blowing the head off of it, and there's always been some form of violence in cartoons. But I also think about all the different games kids play that create violent behavior. And in my humble opinion, there's no place for censorship in art or in the city of Melbourne. I've got some petitions here that we didn't put a lot of effort in this, but we ended up with 936 signatures of people in favor of that particular piece of art. And what they're asking on that petition is for the city council to reconsider their decision, whenever it was, a month or two ago, to send it to P&Z. So we're actually here tonight asking you to reconsider that decision and see if it's really something that has to be done. I spoke to Corey Runte, who chaired the Historical Architectural Review Board. He said that he had heard that somebody thought that their decision to approve this twice was based on some outside influence. He said that they were not influenced by anything but the facts and of the art. And I picked up copies today of a small stack of emails. I only have one copy that were sent to the art board in support of this project. Yeah, it's only one copy. And Corey said he'd be here tonight to talk about the process they went through at the Historical Architectural Review Board, but he's on the board of the EDC and he has a board meeting tonight. And we've got we didn't really put a lot of effort into this, but we've got a few people here tonight that are in favor of the mural. Who's here tonight in favor of it? Yeah. We could easily have packed the chambers if we put some effort into it, but and this isn't controversial. Everybody I've talked to is positive, and but since there was some negative stuff that came up, we just wanted to show you the other side of what's going on. And I respectfully ask the council to consider reversing the decision they made to send this down the road of P&Z and taking up people's time at.
All right, so you want to reverse the appeal process.
Right, and if you look at the petitions there at the head, that's what it says, top of the petition. And like I said, we had 936 people sign that, and this wasn't a lot of effort. With some effort, I'm sure we would have gotten 3,000 people. And with some effort, I'm sure we could have filled every seat here and had people outside.
Okay.
But again, I just feel like we shouldn't be censoring art, because art is something that people see it different ways.
Okay.
All right, thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you, Mr. Stivers.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Me too.
Okay.
Mr. Stiver, sir? Hey, sir, thank you. Thank you for your speech there. By chance, have you talked to the business owner across the street from you that owns that Atlantic Furniture?
No, I have not, but we did talk to and I'll let my wife deal with that. We did talk to the people in the next door to them. No, never mind, they're gonna speak. But from what I've heard, that's the only people that have any negative thing to say about this. And one of those petitions is signed by all the businesses in the galley except them. So, and I think that's labeled that's just every other business except them are in favor of it.
Well, sir, I can tell you, I get a lot of emails for those that are against it as well, and they have a right to exercise their First Amendment rights. And this was not about censorship, but it was about processing and how the mural was approved after a rendition was run before the Historical Architectural Arts Board, and then they approved a concept, but then what was actually painted afterwards was totally different. So there was a processing issue there that the public didn't understand because, again, it's written in our ordinances and statute of how that process is supposed to work. It didn't work that way, thus the appeal. So I know I'm definitely not in favor of considering changing the decision that the council has made. I can't speak for everybody, but I know I'm definitely not in favor of that. And I want to see the appeal take place on the 7th.
Well, what was originally submitted was a concept drawing from the artist, and the artist is internationally known. I mean, we've seen his art in Denver, we've seen his art in San Francisco, and then you're correct that the concept drawing was different. And after that was brought to the attention, it went back to the Historical Architecture Review Board, and it was approved with the exact art that's on that wall. So I beg to differ with you, but I don't believe
that's
you're
right.
correct.
Yeah, it did go back and it was approved.
Right.
That's right.
After it was done.
Yeah.
Mayor, again, this is going to be, again, hashed out at 7th of June, appeals process.
All right, well, all right, so we got other speakers.
Yes, ma'am.
here. All right.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah, Vice Mayor Minus.
Yeah, I see. This is very impressive, the 900 plus signatures. All of these are that you're aware of. You know if there are registered voters in Cocoa, Melbourne, Palm Bay, and in the Atlantic, you know? Do you know if they are registered voters?
I do not know, but the ones, the involvement I had, I would probably say at least 90% of them are registered voters in the town where they live.
Okay, thank you.
And my wife just corrected me. She said she would say 100%. But we've only been married 38 years and we've never agreed on anything. 90%, 100%.
Just nod your head, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, anyone
you.
else? All right, so next is J.C. Stivers.
Thank you. I'm going to be brief. My name is J.C. Stivers. I'm a resident of Brevard County, and my address is P.O. Box 938, Melbourne, Florida. We're property owners in Melbourne. We've been developers here and in business here for over 30 years. I was one of the original members of the board of EGAD, and I think it's probably the most poorly funded CRA in the history of Florida because of timing and the TIF financing, the way it works. I am extremely proud of the public art that we have developed in Melbourne, not just O'Galley, but also Melbourne, with very little funding, especially in the last couple of years. So basically, I consider the art programs, the public art programs here, bootstrapped. And that's due to hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds or thousands of volunteer hours. So I think it's important to realize that these are international artists. We went through the right process. They came as a result of Art Basel and the connection with Derek Gores, which I am really grateful for. They brought a lot of different art styles. You know, murals are now urban art. They're very popular. Our grandkids saw a lot of the same artists in Denver when we were traveling over spring break. I think it puts our community in a different light. It's also very much an attraction to the kind of people that we want to move here in terms of the engineer and the jobs that we're trying to promote. That quality of life has a lot to do with it. We did have intentionally Our very first mural was a typical Florida mural. It has an orange, it has manatees, it has a palm tree. And when I say that to people, I get this very blank look, and they look at me and say, "What are you talking about?" And it's the mural on the back of the amphitheater, but it's not memorable and it's not remarkable. The style and the painting's very well done, but art is supposed to evoke emotion. So we followed the procedure. We had 2 public meetings. I'm going to propose a different resolution. Rather than spend taxpayer money going to court over this and determining whether the procedure was followed and whether it is actually censorship, I would suggest that the people who object to it get involved in EGAD and volunteer and become part of the process rather than part of the peanut gallery and complaining. Just one more thing. I've heard that someone said they lost 60% of their business. And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Not that I want anybody to lose their business, but to think that a painting on a wall could evoke enough emotion that you would actually lose 60% of your business, in my mind, means that we can do these murals so well that we can actually promote people's businesses. And that's really, quite frankly, what we're trying to do. So thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Any
Stivers.
questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
And I
Mr.
think
Thomas.
on the 60%, I think the business you're referring to lost 60% of business because she was getting attacked on social media and also on her business website because she opposed the mural when her name was broadcasted in Florida Today.
I don't really actually believe
whether
that,
you
but-
agree with her or not, she still has a right to voice her opinion in Florida Today and not be harassed.
And
by
I'm
the folks.
so happy that you brought that up, because this group of people are very professional. We are not disrespectful. There's no one doing any social media bashing. And so we are not approaching this from that perspective at all.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I want to make it perfectly clear that that is not we're very articulate and professional, and no one is approaching this from a confrontational manner whatsoever.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that. So you would actually condemn those that would do that to her on
Absolutely.
social media and also at her website?
Absolutely.
Well, let me just say this, because most of the folks that are doing that are supporters of the artists that we're talking about, and they're not from Melbourne, but they are supporters of the artist. And also, if you do some more research on that artist had a mural that was just taken down in California because it depicted the current president of the United States with bullet holes in his eyeball, his thigh, also his chest, with gook coming out of it. And so again, is that really what we want for our city? Just something to think about. And it's a rhetorical question, but I think it's something definitely worth to think about.
I do think it's rhetorical, because that's not the issue here in our community. We don't have a mural of our president, and I think that would be disrespectful, sir, quite frankly.
Okay. And I guess my concern is when you have artists, though, that are doing that, and again, that's the graffiti types of artists that do those sort of kind of things, then it kind of raises the eyebrow of the public, and they have a concern. And so I think a lot of the controversy is also generated with that. So,
Anything else?
that's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stivers. Derek Gores.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Derek Gores. I live in Satellite Beach, and I'm a volunteer with the EGAD board. I was chairman of that board for 3 years. Did I cover the basics there?
Yes,
I
sir.
don't think I've met all of you in person, but thank you. Thanks for having us. The last time I was here about the murals was at that HARB meeting when the art was approved. But I understand there was another meeting, I'm not sure if it was the council meeting or what, where it was discussed, and I read about it later, and I wasn't here for that. So I, along with some more folks, really had some things I wanted to say. Let's see. As you know, in EGAD, we exist in order to revitalize that neighborhood, and we love it. We love doing it. You know, we only have one paid employee, our executive director, Lisa Packard. The rest of us are all volunteers, and it just keeps growing every day. I'm sure you've noticed the difference, the growth. You know, it wasn't that many years ago where the only thing you could find at night was once a month on First Friday, but now there are all these layers. You can go down there and discover something different all the time. In EGAD, we've always pictured that we say that we have 1 foot in history and 1 foot in the future. So we try to respect that history. As JC mentioned, our first mural really depicted that first, that traditional flavor. But there are other flavors to be shown as well. I wanted to speak about so the Anti-Gravity Project was our mural festival, because one of the ways that we revitalize is through art. We don't have, art is the cheapest way to revitalize. We don't have a hotel project yet. We don't have the fancy bike path we want yet. But for literally the cost of paint, we can transform a space. And so that blighted corner, I'm sorry, JC and Jimmy, that building of yours, it was pretty rough. But for literally the cost of paint, we've been able to spruce up one little section at a time of the neighborhood. So as curator, curator is a fancy word that's overused now. You can curate a sock drawer if you want. But I was one of the curators along with my friend Angelo, and we very carefully and thoughtfully selected the artists for this project. About half of it was local artists, as well as projects for local people to get involved in. And then a specific section of it is out-of-town superstars who bring their level of quality and also their social media power to Ogali. And that's exactly what has happened. That's why you see thousands of people taking selfies in front of the Sharktooth mural and now Matt Gondek's. I want to say, murals and art in general are their expression, their pure expression. There's no such thing as a piece of art that everyone will love. Even the Mona Lisa, some people are like, okay. So there's no such thing as art that everyone will like. And that's why, no mural represents the entire town. Murals aren't advertising. Murals are not welcome to Melbourne. That is not what a mural is. We already have a sign that says welcome to Melbourne. So murals get to depict a point of view of a building owner, a business owner, as well as the artist and the community. As a whole, they represent the diversity of expression of that whole community. And we have more than 20 now, I'm not sure. I bet Nancy knows how many we have. 31 murals now.
Mr. Gores, do you need an extension of the 3 minutes?
May I? I bet I can talk faster. I can do it in less than that, if you don't mind.
No objection, we'll let him speak another
Thank
minute.
you. I'm most of the way done.
Okay.
So what I say to folks, and I've met a person or two who doesn't like a certain mural of ours. What I say to them is, well, what is a style of art that you like? Let's get you a mural. There's no mural that's for everyone, but let's get yours. Do you have a building? What is your favorite art style? And then we invite people to sponsor those, because as you know, as I hope you know, those murals were all paid for by the building owners, the business owners, even $5 at a time, just by citizens, fundraisers to make this town awesome. So that's what I say to folks, including those, and JC is absolutely right. When I heard that those folks didn't love it, I thought, okay, well, first of all, somebody at the business wants a mural, so we're trying to connect with that person. That's the way we go with it. The last thing I wanted to say, because art is not just pretty pictures, it's not just artists having fun. This is our way of making this place. This is our way. This is my language is art, so I want to make our town incredible. And that includes the bottom line, the economic impact. So when you see the articles in the paper and the conversations with the EDC about the big chat over the last 3 years or so has been, how do we attract and retain, you guys probably could have finished that sentence for me, how do we attract and retain talent for the Embraers, the Northrop Grummans, the high-tech stuff that's happening here? Because those employees, they can choose from anywhere to live. And I'm here to tell you that art, like this piece of art, is exactly the kind of thing that those folks are looking for. Doesn't mean that we suddenly become downtown Los Angeles or anything like that. Regular towns across America are using public art programs to spice up their town and make it an incredible place. That's the passion that we bring to the table, and we very specifically chose Matt Gondek for all the reasons that I just mentioned, and I appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Questions
Gores.
for me?
Madam Mayor.
right, Mr. Thomas.
Oh, what are you doing, sir, to try to attract and draw local artists into what y'all are doing with EGAD?
Well, let's see. First of all, I have a gallery and studio right across from Ace Hardware, and I try to know every creative person in town, not only visual artists, but the dancers, the improv people. I have an event on, I think it's Thursday, where we bring art and tech together, where we feature 3 artists. I am very fortunate to have a space to work in, but I try to bring every single creative. So not just in the mural program, but absolutely everything. I'm not sure how many local creatives we had in the anti-gravity project, but I can't think of a person who wants to have more of them involved than I do. So really every day there's some way that I'm interacting with the local creatives and trying to engage them.
I've had a couple of the local artists that have approached me, and I can give you the names afterwards, that felt like they've been completely left out of this process. And I'm thinking, man, you know, the art, what we do with EGAD down there, I think that's wonderful. Most of those paintings down there I think are really, really cool. Not so much the cartoon art, that's just my personal opinion, but the rest of it, very classy. It adds to the exterior of the building, it adds to the ambiance of where it's at. But why not, what would really be cool is if to use these local artists that's homegrown here and showcase the talents of our city with the mural projects and use local folks instead of bringing in these out of towners.
Absolutely. So we had a call for artists specifically for the mural project, and believe me, there were a lot of folks who wished they had a wall. But you try to do the project bite size, and then we hope to do another one, and then we'll have more projects for them. So we hope it should be an ongoing thing. There are always more walls or rooftops or intersections to paint. We could paint your car.
The other thing,
Control panels.
the other thing I'm concerned with is one of these artists showed me the paint that's on the shark tooth mural, and that paint, because the quality of that paint is not a great paint and it doesn't weather well, it's already chipping. And so within a short amount of time, within 3-4 years, yeah, I mean the quality of that mural is already starting to look bad. So that's the other thing that I have concern with is the quality of the art as far as the paints that they use, especially when it comes to the graffiti art.
I'm happy to address that. That artist, Sharktooth, at least as well known as Matt Gondek, he uses exactly the paint that he wanted to use. He gave us the list of what he liked. But public art, honestly, is not designed to last forever. Some of that paint, you're right. I mean, 5 years, 6 years it may have. That particular building is perhaps one of our most blighted in town. I hear that if you press against the walls, it kind of moves and you can see daylight through the cracks. And yet that was a signature wall for us that, as I said, thousands of people have taken selfies in front of. How do I think it'll play out if that building eventually has to be rebuilt, which is likely? Yes, there will be a mourning of the sadness of losing the Sharktooth mural, but maybe we bring him back or somebody else and you get the next one. So it kind of creates a continuum. Public art doesn't have to last forever, but you look forward to the next thing. Even the artist would say, if he were here, he would say the same thing. It doesn't have to last forever, but you make a potent, powerful, beautiful moment while you have it.
We need to move on.
But we do also take efforts to coat the artwork so that it'll last. I've seen those spots you're talking about, and I intend to go touch them up and see if we can get some more time out of that particular mural.
Mayor?
All right, are you done, Mr. Thomas?
Yes,
All right, Mr. Alfrey.
I just want to make a quick comment. Originally, a couple years ago, we had a restaurant on Aurora that put up the mural, and it was taken down. That really bothered me. I like the murals. I know the council jumped on, and we changed basically the way we operate, and we allowed the mural. I know we all support the Old Galley Arts District. I've taken my children down there and walked and seen the art. I mean, I was there in the 70s when the Pink Motel, I used to play on top of the Pink Motel, and for most people don't know that, there was a hotel where the Squid Lips, I think it is right now.
Top of it? I haven't heard this. On top?
We used to go up top and Bill's Bait and Tackle. I know that place very well. So downtown Old Galley is my home, and it's gorgeous. I love it. The issue that we have, though, with this one specific mural is the process, and I think it will play out. But I just want to let everybody know, we're not against the mural. Matter of fact, this council right here is the one that stepped up and helped bring the murals to Melbourne and O'Galley. So as that process plays out, I just want to let everybody know, we're not against murals at all.
Okay. All right, anyone else? All right, thank you, Mr. Gores.
Thanks, guys.
All right, next is Wayne Walton.
My name is Wayne Walton. I live in Melbourne, Florida. Lost my voice a couple of days, so I'm going to keep this brief. This happens to mean a lot to me, so I figured I would push through it. Art is a catalyst. It creates conversation, it sparks interest, and that interest turns into everything from increased foot traffic to new businesses opening up and new residents moving into a district. I currently own the old Rick's Furniture Building at 617 West O'Galley Boulevard. We're in the process of revitalizing the 20,000 square foot property into a collective eatery, art gallery, and co-working space. We've been fortunate enough to have acclaimed chefs from Los Angeles, New Orleans, Miami, and Tampa, both fly in and drive into town. Interested in becoming part of the collective eatery project, 100% due to the anti-gravity mural campaign, and specifically due to the name recognition of Matt Gondek provided to the district. These chefs sought us out. I didn't seek them out. They came to me directly. They came to me directly because of mural images that they had saw on their social media feeds, Facebook, Instagram, things like that. Artists like Matt Gondek are in many ways larger than life within their art worlds, and their reach is quite impressive. Our arts district received a gift, and at the time, I don't think we can place a monetary value on this gift. I think in a couple of years from now, we'll see it play out with the types of businesses and the types of residents that start moving into the arts district. We're currently in the process of investing right at about $2 million into our project. It's murals and artists like Matt Gondek that give us the confidence to know that we're making a sound investment and that our real estate holdings are worth holding on to. So thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. Okay, next is, I think starts with an E. Last name is D-Z-O-T-S-I. I think I'm going to butcher it. Dotsy? Is it close?
It is pretty close.
Oh, man. Okay.
Hi, Council. The name is Eric Dotsy.
Okay.
And I usually don't participate in this thing because I think it's a conversation among well-fed people. I grew up in Africa, and I grew up in a country of a dictatorship.
In what city do you live in?
I live in Palm Bay, Florida.
Okay. All right. Very good.
So I just want to read something real quick. So there's a song that I know, it's called, the lyrics go, "March in front of us so we can follow you. March forward so people can follow you. And when the roads are dark, shine so we can follow." This is not a gospel song. This is a song that is taught to elementary school about the president of the country. And when I was growing up, art was all about propaganda. The only allowed art is about propaganda. So I came into this country in 2001, and I discovered the freedom that actually exists through the art. We talk about art as if it was like a luxury or commodity, but the implications of it go a lot deeper than people are making it to be. I would like to address two things that were said earlier. I personally resent the fact that Mr. Thompson, the councilman, referred to the artist as graffiti artist. I think that we need to be very careful about the words we choose. These are artists, they're not graffiti artists, they're not street thugs that are painting walls. So I would like to be very careful about how we designate the people that are donating time, especially when we bring international artists to the area. These are very important. And in relation to the process, let's put about the fact that I grew up in a third world country where people were getting shot in the street. censorship is very important, and we can use process to disguise it, but the reality of it is there was a process. If there was a fault with the process, they went back, and the people in charge of the process agreed to keep the art in place. So you can make the case that the process was followed. The real issue that is bringing this back up is the content of the art. So let's not fool ourselves and just say, okay, this is merely about process. Because if it was just about process, the process was followed, it was deviated from, but then the people that are in charge of it went back and say, we approve it. That's what happened. Now we have to spend taxpayer money to try to go back and evaluate whether that is true or not. The second part that I would like to cover in my 30 seconds is the designation of that painting as being violent. There's no picture here of it, but it's an art of cartoon with Wile E. Coyote holding a fork, and then there is a plastic gun. If that's what violent is, I think we should probably rename Thanksgiving like Assault on Turkey Day. So I want to be careful. We either are for the art or we are against it, but it will show on what we stand for, and that's all I wanted to share with you guys.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
I would just like to say thank you very much. You really stated that quite nicely, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, I just at this point, I know that there's more speakers, but I would just like to give my opinion, that I think this is freedom of speech. And I think if we have an issue on how it was handled by our board, that we have given them the permission to handle for us, then we need to, as a council, go back and look at that. But by doing so, we don't need to take down a mural to fix the problem for the future. They did go back a second time around and relook at it and did make the decision second time around that they felt that it was still an appropriate mural to be there. So I would hate to see at this point that we are not allowing freedom of speech and that we're taking down art that some of us may like, some of us may not like, because we don't like the art. I mean, what we need to do is fix the process so that we aren't in this situation again. But I don't think we have to take down the art to do so.
Okay. All right. Next is Martine. Captunis?
Captunis.
Captunis. Okay.
Thank you. Good evening.
And city?
I live in Merritt Island,
Okay.
6685 South Tropical Trail.
Okay.
And I'm a member of the EGAD Design Committee. And I'm here to defend the controversies in the controversial images within contemporary art, in particular how they relate to those images found in the Matt Gondek mural. Are these images necessary, and what do they contribute to society and our community? Do we edit the work or leave the images that are pleasing, pretty, and safe? Or do we let the public form its own opinions? Throughout history, artists have produced controversial artwork. Their intent is to stimulate our emotions, to deliberately interrupt or question our normal thought patterns, to start a dialogue. They give form and meaning to social and political issues around us. As often as they are a reflection of our society, so too they are a significant part of society and freedom of expression. They allow the artist to communicate ideas and issues irrespective of subject matter. Gondek's lively mural, with his signature work of deconstructed iconic cartoon characters, fits the bill. His use of bright, explosive primary colors, clean lines, and implications of mayhem have a universal appeal. They are both playful and disturbing, the universal struggle between good and evil. And if we take a closer look at the mural, we see that it represents a mural painted 80 years ago, that one by Pablo Picasso's 1937 controversial mural of Guernica. Much like Guernica, in the background we see walls exploding, buildings on fire, distorted faces with hollow eyes. Wile E. Coyote struggles to chase the roadrunner. It is full of cartoon characters that are always losing. Yet, Pepe Le Pew holds a flower, a universal symbol of hope. Although this mural might evoke only a violent response, the artist is asking us to look closer and find joy in the absurdities of our times. So we respectfully ask that you look at the mural again and leave it as the artist intended it. It is, after all, a reflection of our time. Our exposure these days to controversy in all forms of mass media is ever growing. Gondik looks beyond the chaos and cruelty of a raging, turbulent world gone mad and finds joy. The kind of joy we had when we were young and found laughter in the silly antics of our beloved cartoon characters. After all, we all secretly wanted Wile E. Coyote to catch that pesky roadrunner. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Eric Ellebrock.
Hard to contain myself. Hard to contain myself. Eric V. Ellebrock, 1948 Tyler Avenue, Melbourne, Florida. Y'all seem to recall, maybe does the city council recall, several years ago, I came up in front of this august body and said, when you approve murals, you're going to be opening up a can of worms. Not that I have anything against graffiti, but I love being able to say, I told you so. I told you so. I love it. This is a controversy that really didn't need to happen, but you guys made a decision. We're spending, and now we got con involved. How much is that costing the city? Okay, right off the bat, sorry, due to circumstances beyond my control, I was not able to attend the meeting last night. However, that meeting was long due. That airport has become the tail that wags the dog. We need to totally gut the board. We need to rebuild the structure and way we deal with that airport, because that airport belongs to the city of Melbourne. All right. School resource officers. If the county wants to have armed officers in the school, and they're needed, we don't need police officers. We need security officers, armed security officers. They're cheaper, okay? If they want us to foot the bill for more armed officers in the school, let the county school board work it out. You know, it's gone beyond under control, man. We can't afford that. Now, I'm sure you're all aware, the city of Palm Bay has jumped on the bandwagon for the I guess the narcotics control, to sue the manufacturers of various medications that have gotten out of control, and that's becoming a nationwide thing. The only thing that thing's going to do is make a bunch of attorneys richer. It's not going to bring aid to the people who are heroin addicts. It's not going to help the city deal with the people who are heroin addicts. It's just going to make the attorneys richer. I hope you all realize that. Now, let's get right back down to it. Now, for 20 years, I've been filling out the speaker request forms. Flip it over. Do you have one handy? Can we flip? If you all have one, flip it over. It says, no signs or banners are not permitted. I saw all these signs out here. Nobody said nothing, okay? If Eric stands out here with a sign, I'll get sprayed, okay? It's, again, some pigs are more equal than others. I suggest in the future that that somebody publicly read the rules of conduct, the rules of conduct, because again, if I showed up here with a sign or a prop, what would happen to me, okay? And as far as the speaking time goes, come on, constantly overrunning it seems like I'm the only one who gets, chastised for going over time. And I'm not going to do that because I monitor my time. But again, in closing, we need to, I love it. I told you so.
Ayana Verdi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ayana Verdi. I'm a resident of the Eau Gallie Arts District here in Melbourne, Florida. I am also the founder of a not-for-profit community-based school that uses the Eau Gallie Arts District as a community campus. Our students, a group of children in kindergarten through 8th grade, are given the opportunity to view the art in the district as a learning experience. Sidewalks become classrooms as children engage in lively discussions about art from the perspective of both the artist and the viewer. While our children may not always agree on the interpretation or intention of the piece of art they are studying, They learn an important lesson in social interactions, the power of choice. Somehow, these children are able to disagree with grace and respect, remembering that an opinion is neither right nor wrong, but just that, an opinion. Our children today are often met with condescension and outright dismissal. Their awareness and desire for justice brushed away as immature and oversensitive. But whose delicate sensibilities are truly offended by the placement of paint and shapes on a wall? As adults, mentors, and educators, it is our responsibility to teach them that a community is comprised of a diverse collection of people, thoughts, ideas, and perspectives. Each perspective and individual is valuable, and this diversity brings strength to our district. Our children are watching us, and we cannot afford to teach the leaders of tomorrow that the way to respond to differences of opinion is to actively erase them. Where does this path lead? Erase this art, erase that building, erase that opinion, erase this person. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Verdi. Christine Del Palma.
Hi, Christine DePalma, City of Melbourne. I'm one of the owners of O Biscuit. I sit right across from the mural. And I'm just here to say that we have a lot of people that come in and discuss the mural. Some like it, some don't. They ask me my opinions. I've never had anybody say, I don't want to come here because of this mural. I have a lot of people that go across the street. They stand in front of the mural, take pictures, have discussions, and a lot of people enjoy it. I did have a chance to talk to my neighbor, the furniture owner. I had gone over to deliver some food, and he asked me what I thought of the mural. And I said, I thought it was fine, not one of my favorites. And he said, I had to buy these blinds. Customers are complaining. And I said, okay, I have to go now. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. DePalma. Next is Jenna Butchler.
Jenna Bueller, Melbourne, Florida.
Sorry. All right.
All right. Yeah. I live in a 1920s carriage house during a time when SpaceX is launching rockets up in space and landing them back at a launch pad. And I love all of the beautiful, complicated stuff that's happening here tonight. I wanted everyone here to know that I don't have family here. I'm one of those people that you attracted and retained, whether you like it or not. And I love this town. I love the fact that the American dream kind of still thrives here. And I just wanted to share that I got to actually help house some of the artists. There wasn't enough funding to actually afford proper lodging for them, so they ended up on cots and sleeping bags in places like my place. And Matt Gondek, who painted the mural that's up for discussion tonight, got to hang out. He's mid-30s, I'm 28. He grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I grew up in Hoosier, Indiana, town of 5,000. And we both have that Rust Belt culture. We work with our hands. Our work is our life, is our worth. And I just wanted to share that he's used these images as ways to capture nostalgic things. These are reflections of Walt Disney. They're creatures of the American dream, the white picket fence, and the American dream in our era, Gondek and I's era, the Rust Belt era, has left our fathers and mothers without pensions. Retirement isn't real. There's a frustration that's embedded in the core of this type of pop art. He's a deconstructive artist. He's deconstructing the fabric of who we are in this time. And so I know a number of people have talked about the beauty behind his work and taking a second look, but I thought it might be interesting for everyone to hear out of my experience with Matt Gondek what he really meant. I also wanted to share that I was one of the volunteers. Many of my friends volunteered much more, hundreds of hours to this mural project, which was very grassroots. Derek Gores has always kind of mobilized our network of younger people with Derek Gore's support, I've actually helped to raise over $1 million to support cultural efforts here in this county. I've only been here 5 years. I've raised over $1 million to support cultural efforts and entrepreneurship. And I just say that that would not be possible without people who are volunteering their time. People like JC, who really, she's from the Hoosier State too, holla. But people who are here to build and create and thrive. And I don't think any animosity is wanted, but I think that a dialogue, it can be beautiful. And I just hope that Brevard can see it and know that it deserves a mural like this.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bueller. That's the end of the comments. Mr. Stryver is asking that we withdraw our challenge to the Architectural Review Board on that mural. So do I need a motion?
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
before we make a motion, I need to refer that to our city attorney.
Okay. Right now, it's going to go in front of Planning and Zoning on June 7th.
Right, the appeal is scheduled for June 7th. The appeal will be based on the record that was created at the Historic and Architectural Review Board meeting that reviewed the mural for the second time. That would be the January minutes. If, as it played out, if you'll recall, it was the city council that directed the city manager to file the appeal. City council can withdraw that appeal as well. You have that within your power to do that. If that's what you would so wish, you would just direct the city manager to do that.
All right, so I make a motion to withdraw the appeal.
I second it.
Further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Thomas.
now we came to this agreement as a city council 2 months ago. So something as important as this, and this is well orchestrated, and I congratulate the folks that put their heads together to do this tonight without it being addressed publicly as far as announcing it, so we could get other folks to come and hear this as well and say their 2 cents. So I think that we should play it out. We've already got a process in motion. It's publicized. People know about it. 7 June is the appeal. And I think not only do these folks have a right to be heard, but also the folks that are against the mural, which we have received emails from, which have stopped us in the streets and talked to us. They deserve a right to be heard as well. And so I think we should stick to what we decided several months ago and let this thing play itself out. And whatever happens 7 June, whatever happens, happens, and we live with it.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
I would like to state that if I remember correctly, back when this first came up, it came up in the exact same position that we're in right now. It was not an agenda item. It was being brought up because people came up and public spoke. And we made a decision, which I feel at the time was a decision that was made very quickly without us having all the information that we needed to have at the time to do so, which is why I am a big proponent that when anything like this comes up, that we make sure it gets put onto the agenda as an agenda item prior to making a decision. And I think that decision was made too soon. I think since then, we had heard one side of it to begin with. Since then, we've now heard another side of it. The fact of the matter is look at all these signatures that we've received. I mean, this is amazing. This is totally amazing. Not to say that we may not have issues in the process, and maybe we need to fix the process a little so that we don't have this issue come up again in the future. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the time that we have to stand up and we have to say that we are not going to take something down because of personal opinions on whether we like a painting or we don't like a painting. And freedom of speech is extremely important to me, and I think that's what this is about, is freedom of speech. And once again, as far as what Mr. Thomas had said a few minutes ago, that happened the first time around the same way this has happened this time around. And I think that withdrawing this approval is the right thing to do.
Mayor?
All right, I got Ms. Lopez and then Ms. Moore.
I think that we should look at the process. I think it's important to make sure the process was followed because we may have the same issue later on. And just like they receive a certain amount of signatures, I'm sure the other side could also get the same or even more, possibly, signatures. Now, one thing you have to realize, this is the opportunity on June 7th for both sides to get together and then speak out for it or against it, and to address the policy and get it down packed. Can they do this, or can they do it the other way? That's how I feel. Both sides should have the opportunity. Whether I like the mural or not, I think both sides should get the opportunity.
Okay, I got Ms. Moore and then Ms. Dolly.
I am nothing against the art. It's my neighborhood, all right? But I have to support both sides of this. And I sat in on the second meeting, and I must tell you, the process was not good. The process was not good at all. And I never condemn another board. It was their decision, but there were people there that were for, there were people there that were against this, and I think that the people who are not happy with this, I can tell you the number of emails that I still get from people, and the last one I got was a day or so ago from someone, and they weren't radical. They were just saying what they are uncomfortable with, just as you have the right to come to us and say that this is okay and this is art, etc., etc. But this person also has a right. Now, this was not an agenda item, so no one knows about this. This is kind of just snuck through there, and I have a problem with that. I think we need to be able to have both sides heard. Because you're all sitting here, you held up your signage that you were for it, you were the majority of the people that are sitting here tonight, and you knew that this is what you were going to do and you were going to present to us. But I have not been able to give the opportunity to the people that are uncomfortable with it. And I know art is subjective, but we sit up here and we represent the whole city, not just one segment of it. So I cannot be in favor of rescinding that motion.
Mayor?
All right, Ms. Dolly.
I think there's an important distinction to be made here. The appeal that's going to be heard on June 7th is not a vote as to how many people like it and how many people don't. Through somewhat of a fluke in the state law and then our adoption by City Council in terms of the right to speak, at that appeal, the general public does have the right to speak. However, the appeal decision is only based on the information that was provided at the original hearing. So if a member of the general public stood up and made some type of legal argument, they could consider it. If the general public wanted to stand up and give a factual argument, I like it, I don't like it, this is what it means, this is what it doesn't mean, this offends me, it doesn't offend me, it's distracting, it's not distracting, has to be disregarded. We're going to have to direct the P&Z board to disregard those types of comments in their decision. It's a very awkward procedure. Now, so then the question becomes, well, what are they looking at on appeal? And the rule of thumb is, if there is evidence in the record that's already created that indicates that they relied on competent, substantial evidence in reviewing and making their decision, then the decision can stand. It's only the failure. It doesn't matter if there are two sides that are represented or not. It's more as long as their decision is supported by competent, substantial evidence. So I just want people to understand that this is an appeal, not a rehearing.
Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Madam
All
Mayor.
right, wait a minute, Mr. Thomas. I think I had somebody down here.
Yep.
All right.
Go ahead, you can go first. Good.
I guess I have a question about that. So let's say that occurs, Ms. Dolly. What happens after that?
If what happens at that point?
Yes, if let's just say it stands as it was, they
then city council as the party would, the city as a party would be able to appeal that decision to the next level. And that's where it gets awkward, because the city, through Mr. McNeese, would be appealing to city council. And if you'll recall, when we spoke about this previously, I indicated that merely having this discussion about whether to pursue the appeal or not would taint your decision-making abilities in the quasi-judicial hearing on the appeal. And so because of that, the opposing party, we would recognize that and basically concede that and offer them to go straight to the court system. I don't know whether they're going to exercise that right or not.
So right now, we have spent a considerable amount of money as a city. Obviously, we've hired an attorney from the outside, correct, to do what we're doing so far. We're going to continue to, after this is said and done, have to have an attorney to continue after this is done. As far as I'm concerned, what I'm saying is maybe the process wasn't exactly the way the process could be, or could be better. The process could be better. But by repealing, withdrawing this approval, we can keep this mural, which I think we should keep this mural. Again, once again, freedom of speech. And then as a council, come back together. We've withdrawn this approval. We're starting from scratch again. Come back together and as a council discuss how we're going to proceed from here and fixing the issues so that the process is done appropriately from here on out, or how we feel the process should be done. And maybe it'll stay the same. I don't know. We have to have that discussion. But we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to have that discussion and make that discussion, and not just the matter of the money that we're paying as a city to the attorney fees. It's unbelievable. And I don't think that needs to be done, especially if I've heard from most people up here, most of the council members up here, I don't have a problem with the mural. This is not about the mural. Well, if this is not about the mural, then let's not make it about the mural. And then let's go fix the process, whatever process needs to be fixed, and make it better. And we're going to be saving a heck of a lot of our taxpayer money by doing so.
Yeah, well said.
Well, Mayor?
Said. All right, Mr. Alfrey and then Mr. Thomas.
Well, if I recall, then we've already kind of discussed, City Attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, but that the council was already tainted when it comes to the quasi-judicial argument that we would have. Am I correct?
Yes, I would concede that. So
I would almost say as a council, by us making a decision now, I mean, if we're already tainted when it comes to that, I mean, that's too premature. And again, this is the council, I said before, stepped up and brought the mural program to Melbourne. We're for the mural. I think we can all agree that if you were to say, take this mural down, I'd say, can I have it? I'd probably put it in my bedroom. I mean, I will tell you that. Is it the appropriate place? I don't know. I have small children. I will tell you that. My kids look at it and, I'm not kind of old-fashioned, and I don't think the kids should be around violence. But that's just my personal opinion, and we all have our opinion. Art is about creating a response, and he has done that. I don't know this man, but he's definitely made his response, and we all feel different about the mural. But just to take a knee-jerk reaction and go, we don't want to follow the process. Our job as a council is to fix problem. We are problem solvers, and I personally feel that more than likely this mural is going to stay, because our board that we picked our board.
We did.
We picked our board. They went back a second time, and even though they basically said, okay, we accept it. So likely this mural will stay. But we do have a process, and that process says we go in a certain direction and represent, like Ms. Moore said, the whole city. So I'm going to have to see how this pans out, and that's where I stand on this.
Okay. Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I guess, and I addressed this to the city attorney before, is granted that whatever is said by the public at this appeals process, it shouldn't hold any weight, because again, they're looking at what they went through as far as the decision-making process and materials that they had at that time when they did the process. But at the same time, then why allow public speaking? And I think a lot of it is spin, because you know that P and Z members, when people come up and they say whatever it is they're going to say, whether it be a legal issue or a legal argument or an emotional argument or whatever the case may be, that has the tendency to sway opinion. And you can't tell me that it doesn't. So if that's the case, then why are we allowing public comments, and let's just do the hearing, the appeal?
Because state law requires it.
Okay? Then you know what? Then you know what? Let's just play it out. You folks come to the appeal on 7 June, and the folks that are against it, they come and they say their piece on 7 June, and let's see what happens.
All right, I have a motion. I'm going to call the question. We have a motion to withdraw the appeal, and second by Ms. Thomas.
I want a roll call vote.
And so we will do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Moore.
Nay.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Nay.
Councilmember Lopez.
Neg.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Nay.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
I vote aye. The motion dies 4-3. So it will go to Planning and Zoning on June 7th. All right, so I'll take a 5-minute break.
I don't write the rules, I just follow them.
Settling in.
We are under B, unfinished business, item 8. Ordinance number 2018-23, the evaluation and appraisal review comprehensive plan amendments. Second reading, Ms. Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, making findings, amending Appendix D, Chapter 4, Section 4.04 of the City Code, amending the future land use, housing, and coastal management elements, the introduction and the future land use map of the comprehensive plan, to add CPA 2017-08 AD, evaluation and appraisal review amendments, major comprehensive plan amendments, to implement amendments based on the city's 2016 evaluation and appraisal review, notification letter to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, providing for severability, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under community development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, staff has nothing further to add on second reading.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? Seeing none, this is public hearing. Any sign-up sheets? I have no sign-up sheets. Close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2018-23, based upon the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-23 by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, this is a second reading. It's going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 9 is ordinance number 2018-24, King's Car Wash. Ms. Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by granting a conditional use to allow a single bay car wash on a 1.02 plus or minus acre parcel, zone CP, Commercial Parkway, located on the west side of Wickham Road, south of Constellation Drive and north of Summerbrook Street, 4860 North Wickham Road, providing for site plan approval, providing for conditions of approval, providing that the conditional use granted herein may be revoked by City Council if the conditions of approval are not met, providing that the property shall be designated on the official zoning map by the symbol CCP, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under community development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, nothing further to add on second reading.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? All right, seeing none, this is quasi-judicial. Do I have any disclosures? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I do have a sign-up sheet. Eric Ellebrock.
Eric V. Ellebrock, 1948 Tyler Avenue. Right off the bat, we're incredibly lucky to have Miss Dolly as our city attorney. She's one of the best. She's great. We need to give her a raise. Okay, have y'all ever spent any time in front of Ocean Spray Car Wash down there on O'Galley Boulevard in August? Let's say around noon. It's a car wash, right? You notice what the people who come out, you know, when they're buffing down your cars, have you noticed what they've been wearing? Minimal clothing, okay? I want y'all to think, what would happen if after you get your car washed, drive it through the car wash there, and all of a sudden, you know, you're paying $72 for this car wash. But the reason you're paying $72 is because a bunch of chicks in bikinis are drying it off. Now, what would happen? What would happen? Is there any, how should I put it? Because, you know, that wouldn't be violating the adult entertainment ordinance or anything like that. They'd be appropriately clothed and all that, but with minimal clothing. Is there any provision to react in case that does happen? Now, you all smiling, shaking your head, going, "Oh, Eric, but you want to give me another moment to come up and say, 'I told you so'?" Okay, you want to give me a chance to do that? Because I'll do it. But I think you need to look into that. I think you need to spend a little time down there in front of Ocean Spray Car Wash on a Wednesday, and see what some of those people are wearing. Okay, really. You know, this has been other issues. This has happened with car washes in other cities. So you might just want to make a note of that. You know, keep an eye on that whole issue because it could happen. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Lopez.
approval of ordinance number 2018-24 with site plan approval request SP 2018-04 based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board Memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-24 as stated in council's package on B9 approved by Ms. Lopez, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, it's going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 10 is ordinance number 2018-25, MC Test Services, Inc., Ms. Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, revoking the economic development ad valorem tax exemption granted to MC Test Service, Inc. by ordinance number 2014-03, making a finding that the business has not fulfilled its employment and average wage commitments represented on the ad valorem tax exemption application, providing an effective date, and providing for adoption.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, nothing further to add on second reading.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, Cindy, last time that we talked about this, I asked about if the city goes back and tries to recoup the taxes that weren't met as a result of them not meeting the standards or the requirements. And you said that normally doesn't happen. Is that correct? It normally doesn't. Y'all normally don't do that.
It's not in the code.
Well, it is in the code. It is not a practice that previous councils have chosen to pursue.
And I was just thinking about that when I was driving home that night, because obviously if it's probably, and I'm just going to throw a figure out there, let's say less than $5,000, it's probably not worth the manpower and work to try to recoup that money. But if it's over that, and again, just an arbitrary figure, $5,000, I mean, why would we not want to go back and try to recoup that money? I'm asking the question because I want to try to understand why we don't do that.
Again, it's just been previous direction by city council. It is an option that city council has always had, and it's not been something that our council has brought up in the past. There's not been but a handful of these, probably 3 or 4, that we've actually done a revocation of the ad valorem.
Yeah, just curious, what's like the largest dollar amount that you've seen as far as taxes that could have been recouped that the city didn't go after? Do you remember anything specifically?
Yeah, I
that was a large
don't really
amount?
have that off the top of my head.
Okay.
All right, Mr. McNeese.
I wouldn't normally do this. I wasn't here for any, or not in the time that I've been here. There's never been a discussion about that, so I can only guess about why might a council have said we don't want to go after that. And the only thing I can think of is if you look at this as a partnership where the city's working with a business who's trying to create jobs, what kind of relationship do you want to have? You know, you go down the road a couple of years and they don't quite succeed with what they promised. You take the exemption away. Now, do you want to be going after them and trying to sue them or somehow collect money from them for the remedial money? The only thing I can think of is about what kind of relationship do you want to have. And then as you work with a future business, what do you want them to know about what your relationship has been with your other partners? Have you gone after them for every dime you could, or have you worked with them? Have you understood when they couldn't quite meet their goals? I'd say that's, if I were to make an argument, why not to go after the money, it'd probably be along those lines of what relationship are you building that you can show to future businesses who might want to be your partner. I can make an argument on the other side too, and you've already made that it's real money and it's out there.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Moore.
I probably would be thinking along the same lines as you are, Councilman Thomas, except they continue to be a source of employment here for 324 Brevard County residents. So we are recouping some sales tax, gasoline tax. They're buying property within Brevard County. If they were relocating to, Mexico, for example, or Canada, I probably have a different thought on it, but they're not pulling out. It was just unfortunate that they were not able to meet the projected number of employees and the growth that they anticipated.
Roger.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Alfrey.
Yeah, Mayor, actually, I can tell you, no one starts a business not wanting to meet their expectation. It's very unfortunate something like that happens. I can understand where Councilman Thomas is going with maybe trying to recoup that, but the reality is I think it'd be very difficult. The fact is, the people, they're probably not, for some reason, they didn't meet their goals. So I think one of those things that I'd have to agree with Ms. Moore on this one, that you know, it's something that we really, I don't think, can go back and get it. We do, I agree with Mr. McNeese here. We want to have a great business relationship. One of my goals on council is to make Melbourne the best business-friendly city that we can have, and by kind of going after businesses, to me, it would send the wrong message.
Yeah, and you know, too, remember, we were desperate for jobs in this county after the shuttle retired.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Mayor, if I could just add, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, but we actually did gain from this company because they brought personal property that was taxed into the city that was about $129,000 over those 2 years. That was new value to the city. And what we did forego in the real property tax was about $65,000. So we actually did gain, and we'll continue to gain on that, you know, in the years that the company stays here in the city.
Yeah, thank you. Y'all answered my questions. I was just thinking if they know for a fact that the city's not going to try to go back and recoup those taxes, and there's maybe a tendency to try to game the system, but it sounds like that hasn't been an issue. So that's why I asked. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right. This is public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? No. I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Lopez.
approval of ordinance number 2018-25.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance 2018-25 by Ms. Lopez, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, this is second reading, going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
I vote aye, and the motion passes. We are into new business, item C11. This is under engineering, public works, and utilities. And Spinoli, Ms. Spinoli? Okay.
Jennifer Spagnoli, Utilities Engineer.
All right, thank you.
This is a request for council approval to utilize the city's horizontal directional drill contract with Young's Communication in the amount of $1,318,603.98 for Phase 1 of the Central Satellite Beach Water Main Replacement Project, number 30017. The Public Works and Utilities has been ongoing pipeline replacements for galvanized and cast iron water mains. The Central Satellite Beach area has been targeted for replacement of the water lines due to the age, the number of breaks, fire flow requirements, and water quality issues. Over the years, sections of the pipes have been repaired and replaced, and there's a mixture of old and new pipes. And a preliminary engineering report was completed in 2016 for an estimated cost of $1.6 million. On June 13th of 2017, City Council awarded a contract to YCOM for the horizontal directional drill services for piping sizes 2-inch through 14-inch, and the contract pricing matches the items included in this project. The area identified replacements located between South Patrick and A1A, from Cassia Drive north up to Park Avenue, with the Phase 1 being from Time Street to A1A and from Norwood Avenue up to Sherwood Avenue. The pipes in this area are over 30 years old, and city staff has been to 2 meetings at the City of Satellite Beach to discuss these upcoming projects, and that we would be beginning work early 2018. Funding is available in the Capital Improvement Project budget 30017, Central Satellite Beach Water Main Replacements, and recommend council approval to utilize the city's horizontal directional drill contract with YCOM of Melbourne, Florida, in the amount of $1,318,603.98 for project number 30017, Phase 1 of the Central Satellite Beach Water Main Replacement, per the contract and quote provided.
All right, thank you, Ms. Spinelli. Any questions for Ms. Spinelli?
I have a question.
Ms. Lopez.
We're replacing galvanized and cast iron water pipes. Are we replacing it with the same material?
No, we'll be replacing these with HDPE pipe, which is a plastic pipe.
Okay, now these lasted 30 years. How long would you guess, or how long do you think that material would last?
Should be 50 years.
50 years?
But the thing is that what we had to use back then was what the materials that were available, but we would not normally recommend putting any kind of cast iron or ductile iron pipe on the beach side where it's more corrosive in that saltwater environment.
Well, they lasted a long time, but 50 years, I'll take 50 years.
All right, Ms. Moore.
My question is, I know the residents of Satellite Beach are really looking forward to this. How disruptive are we going to be? Is this along their streets? Do we have to come back in and repave over this? Or do we have easements for this? I wasn't able to tell.
The pipes will be in the right-of-way, in the grass area for the most part, but the reason we want to use the directional drill contract is that they'll only have to open pits every 500 to 600 feet rather than open cutting in a trench all the way down, so we won't have to tear up driveways. We'll try to, go from end to end and pick the best spots where it's the least disruptive.
Oh, thank you. That was my concern, because I rode through the area and I thought, this is going to be a nightmare if we have to go through replacing these driveways and any portion of these streets. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? I have one. This is phase one. I understand there's 5 phases to that.
I think we have 4. There may have been more to start, but this was originally a phase 1 and 2, but yes, this is phase 1, and there are multiple phases. I think we have budgeted out 2 more years for the next phase.
All right, so you're going to bring that back with a different amount of money, or is this all under?
That'll be a separate project.
It will be, okay, all right. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval to utilize the city's horizontal directional drilling contract with Young's Communication Company Incorporated of Melbourne, Florida, in the amount of $1,318,603.98 for the water main replacement associated with Phase 1 of the Central Satellite Beach Water Main Replacement, project number 30017.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of under item C11, as stated in council's package, by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 12 is the amendment number 1 to the production facility evacuation and master plan agreement. Ms. Spinelli.
This item is to request for council approval for amendment number 1 to the production facility evaluation and master plan agreement with CH2M Hill Engineers for the professional engineering services related to supervisory control and data acquisition system upgrades for the surface water treatment plant and remote pumping and monitoring sites. The existing instrumentation and controls at the surface water treatment plant have not been upgraded since 2002. Much of the hardware and software that control the operations of the plant is no longer manufactured or supported. The supervisory control and data acquisition, which is called SCADA, operates and monitors the water plant functions based on set points and provides alarms for the operators through the human-to-machine control system interface. This work includes designing the SCADA hardware for the surface water plant to match the control system standards that we recently completed at the reverse osmosis water plant, and to also include upgrades at the 5 booster stations, water booster stations, and 7 pressure monitoring locations throughout the system. Funding is available in Utilities Capital Improvement Project 31018, SWTP Instrument and Control Replacement, and $500,000 was appropriated in the current year budget for the design phase, with future requests in the upcoming year for construction. Request approval amendment number 1 to the contract with CH2M Hill Engineers for the surface water treatment plant, replace control instrumentation project number 31018 in the amount of $499,353.60.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Spinelli? All right, seeing none, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Ms. Thomas.
Move for approval of amendment number 1 to the contract with CH2M Hill Engineers for the surface water treatment plant, replace control instrumentation, project number 31018 in the amount of $499,353.60.
A second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number C12 as stated in council's package by Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 13 is Lake Washington Water Treatment Plant Laboratory, project number 31213. Ms. Jenny Lamb.
Yes.
A laboratory.
The laboratory, the Lake Washington Water Treatment Plant Laboratory is, will be approximately 3,400 square feet. And it is a full laboratory with chemistry, instrumentation, and bacteriological work areas. I don't know if any of you have been out to the treatment plant, but the existing lab was built in 1958, and I personally find it amazing that they have the accreditation that they have with that laboratory and that they've been able to work in such a small area for as long as they have. So hopefully this new lab will be able to last just as long as the past lab did. The three bids were received on April 17th. The low bidder is Building Management Systems Incorporated of Melbourne, Florida, in the amount of $2,026,977. Also included in this agenda package, it's a three-parter, is the Bussin Mayer Engineering Group task order for construction engineering services. We tend to, when we're doing buildings like this, we like to have the construction administration services for their specialty with the mechanical systems, the electrical systems, and with some of the specialty work associated with the laboratory. We do not have those specialists as our inspectors, so that is why we're relying upon the consulting engineer. So as I said, this is a three-part. The budget impact, we need a budget resolution to transfer $750,000 from the water and sewer contingency to appropriate funds for this project. So I recommend approval of resolution number 3736. And then I know you have to do these all separately, but next then would be the award of the construction contract to Building Management Systems for $2,026,977. And lastly is task order number BMEG 212 to Bussin Mayer Engineering Group in the amount of $54,248.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb?
Yes.
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
What are we going to do with the current lab?
I do not know the answer to that. Like I said, it is a very small space, and I'm going to see if Ralph or Jennifer know. It probably will just become a storage area at this point. It like I said, if you've been there, it's not a very pleasant area to be in.
So we're keeping it.
It's part of the overall larger building at the surface water treatment plant, the old administration building that's there.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Moore.
I've been there, and that lab we have closets that are larger than what that space is. It really is unbelievably small. So this is long overdue. So, Mayor, I would like to make a motion for the 13A.
Okay.
I would move for approval of resolution number 3736.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item 13A, resolution 3736 by Ms. Moore, and I believe second by...
Yeah, I've actually been
Mr.
out there too. I've been out there too, and it's a big closet. I will have to second that one.
Okay.
It's a big closet.
Okay, I've been out there too. All right, those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 13B, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Ms.
I
Moore.
move for award of construction to Building Management Systems, Inc. of Melbourne, Florida, in the amount of $2,026,977.00 for the Lake Washington WTP Laboratory Project number 31213.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C13, item B, as stated in council's package by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item C13, item 3,
Mayor?
or C, excuse me, C. Yeah, Ms. Moore.
I move for approval of task order number BMEG 212 to Busenmeyer Engineering Group, Inc. of Merritt Island, Florida, for the Lake Washington WTP Laboratory Project number 31213 in the amount of $54,248.00.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C13, item letter C, as stated in council's package by Ms. Moore, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 14 is task order BMEG 213, Ms. Jenny Lamb.
This task order with Bussin Mayer Engineering Group is for the design of a baffle box at the Cliff Creek Stormwater outfall. For those of you that aren't exactly sure where Cliff Creek is, it is, you know where the big orange is for the DAV? That is Cliff Creek that goes through there. We initially thought we'd put the baffle box closer to Pineapple, but due to some sewer work that we're doing, we're going to put it closer to the west side of the property. This task order includes the surveying, the engineering, any ecological services, environmental design, and to provide for a second generation baffle box. And I do want to point out that this project is on the Save Our Indian River Lagoons list of projects to receive $347,781 for the construction portion of this project. So what they do is they look for the municipalities to fund the design part, and then they help fund the construction part. So we're looking forward to moving on this project. So recommend approval of task order number BMEG 213 to Bussin Mayer Engineering Group for the Cliff Creek Stormwater Quality Retrofit Project 20215 in the amount of $79,710.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb?
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Moore.
That project is wonderful because the water that comes through there starts over on the west side of US 1, goes under the railroad tracks, goes under US 1, ends up in that retention sort of, and I'm using the term loosely, basin there, and then filters out into the lagoon. And so I'm really pleased to see that we are putting in a baffle box that's large enough to accommodate that amount of water that goes through there.
That's all largely untreated. There's not much stormwater in treatment in that area, so this is a perfect location for one.
Yes.
Sounds good.
So thank you for that.
All right, so council, any other comments? No? All right, so council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor, again.
Ms. Moore.
I will move for approval of task order number BMEG 213 to Busenmeyer Engineering Group, Inc. of Merritt Island, Florida, for the Cliff Creek Stormwater Quality Retrofit Project number 20215 in the amount of $79,710.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion for approval of C14, as stated in council's package by Ms. Moore, and I think second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? It was close. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 15 is an interlocal agreement with the City of Cocoa and the City of Melbourne. All right, so this is engineering and Mr. Ralph Rigelsberger.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. In regards to this agreement, just a little background information. In our water system, the South Beach customers, or the area there, is currently served with two 20-inch water mains across the Indian River Lagoon. Historically, master planning efforts identified the need for a third crossing to maintain service, reliability, and water quality. In January 2017, you may recall, Council approved the selection of Reese Engineering to provide engineering services with this project. After our project was initiated, the City of Cocoa utility staff approached us regarding having a second parallel water main designed and installed for them. This concept has been around for a number of years. I think it was one of the topics that I first met with the City of Cocoa when I first started here. And it's been a project that is needed for both of our service needs. our current City of Melbourne project has allocated $1,190,000 for design using our current design contract to include the additional water main for, okay, I messed up here reading. I think I needed my glasses. Yeah. Okay, using our current contract that we currently have on design that I mentioned to include the additional water main for Cocoa will be necessitated, and the design cost increase would amount to $665,196. Upon the execution of this interlocal agreement, Cocoa will provide funding for their design share of the project, and that incorporates some of the items that have already been done as far as some environmental components of the evaluation, some right-of-way issues and things of that nature. Cocoa's contribution will offset the increase of design services, and Melbourne will realize a cost savings of over $200,000 in their participation of what the work that we've already concluded. And we also anticipate an amendment to the city's design contract with Reeves over the next council meeting. That's in regards for the extra $665,000. So we recommend approval of the interlocal agreement with the City of Cocoa, Florida, for the inclusion of a second parallel water main to be owned and operated by the City of Cocoa within the Pineda Causeway Water Main Transmission Main Project, and authorizing the city manager to execute said agreement. I think it was mentioned earlier in regards to, I've been to Satellite Beach twice, in regards to how important this project is for serving beachside communities, and I think everybody's looking forward to this project, but probably not anyone as much as me, because this will help me sleep at night.
All right.
To answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr.
Yes.
Weigelsberg? Okay,
I
Ms.
have a
Lopez.
question. Since Cocoa will be in charge of the other pipe going through now, can they make the decision to keep the water on during a hurricane?
During a hurricane, there's a number of criteria that has to be considered, and one of the criteria is that one community will not isolate without the other utility service participating. Also, it has to be agreeable by both of us, utility directors, to make the recommendation and be accepted by the city managers.
But we still make that decision?
Yeah, we still make that decision. But on top of that, as part of this project should be a pressure sustaining valve type device that we're looking to incorporate, such that we do not have to be there manually to operate a valve during a hurricane, so that we could leave this line open, and if a water main break would occur and have a quick depressurization on that side, the valve would automatically close.
Excellent.
So that's why it'd be a great component for beachside services.
Okay. Right. Ralph, on the map that's on page 230, it's showing the pipe, the blue and red. Is blue City of Melbourne and red Cocoa, or?
Let me find
okay.
my page 230, which is going to be.
All right, so blue is Cocoa then.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and all right.
Red is us.
And red's Melbourne. Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
And then it's also anticipated there'll be an interconnect made on Merritt Island in regards to that we could supplement each other's systems during emergency situations.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear we're working with City of Cocoa, so that's good.
Well, I'm glad we're saving money.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. All right, so council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of an interlocal agreement with the City of Cocoa, Florida for the inclusion of a second parallel water main to be owned and operated by the City of Cocoa within the Pineda Causeway Water Transmission Main Project, project number 30315, and authorizing its execution by the city manager.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C15, as stated in council's package by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 16 is A and V ordinance number 2018-26, A and V number 374. Miss Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to vacation of an approximately 11-foot long by 5.5-foot wide portion of a 10-foot wide public utility easement that runs along the north edge of property located north of Player Circle and west of Laura Bow Drive 1870 South Player Circle, making findings, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under engineering, Ms. Jenny Lamb.
The owner of 1870 South Player Circle is requesting to vacate a 5.5-foot wide by 11-foot long portion of the 10-foot wide public utility and drainage easement along the north property line. The owner is making this request to bring an existing storage shed that encroaches into the easement into compliance. The owner did not place the shed. The shed has been there, and he realized that it is within the easement, and he's just trying to make things whole, make things proper. Staff reviewed this pursuant to city code. We found that it did not have an adverse impact on the public health, safety, welfare, and interest of the public. And with that, we request approval of ordinance number 2018-26.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb? All right, seeing none, council, this is quasi judicial. Any disclosures?
None.
Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Any sign-up sheets? No. I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Thomas.
move for approval of ordinance number 2018-26.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-26 by Ms. Thomas, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number C17, ordinance number 2018-27, A and B number 380, Ms. Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to vacation of a 43-foot long by 6-foot wide portion of a 10-foot wide public utility and drainage easement that runs along the east edge of the property located north of Rio Villa Boulevard and east of Rio Pino, 3083 North Rio Pino, making findings, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under engineering, Ms. Jenny Lamb.
The applicant is the current owner of 3083 North Rio Pino, and he discovered that part of his pool is within the easement. In 1981, there was a variance request, and it was granted by the city to construct the pool within the easement. As a condition of that variance, the owner was supposed to obtain the abandon and vacate process. Just so everyone knows, we have sort of we've closed the loop on that, and we make sure that things like that don't happen today, because I think we've ran into a couple of these that many years later we found that they hadn't followed the two-step process. So since the prior property owner did not meet that condition, the current property owner wishes to eliminate the non-compliance. Like I said, for the other A and V, we reviewed this per city code, and we found that it did not have an adverse impact on the public health, safety, welfare, and interest of the public. And staff recommends approval of ordinance number 2018-27.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb?
No.
Seeing none, this is quasi judicial. Do I have any sign-up, any disclosures? All right, this is public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? No, I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Uh-oh. Mr. Alfrey.
I recommend approval of ordinance number 2018-27.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-27 by Mr. Alfrey, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 18 is the consent agenda. I have 3 items that were pulled. Item B, item C, item J. So I need a motion for approval of the rest of the items.
Mayor?
Ms. Thomas.
Move for approval of the consent agenda minus B, C, and J.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda, items A through K, removing B, C, and J by Ms. Thomas, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 19 is 19B. This was pulled by Vice Mayor Minus, and you're on.
Thank you, Mayor. $2,427,609.20. Okay, I'd like to pass out the expenditures for, please give that to the clerk.
Okay.
And this is addressing items B.
You want these?
Well, that is, everyone should get
Everyone?
one,
Okay,
yes.
all right, so, all right.
One should go to the city clerk as well. Okay,
Did everybody get one?
did everyone
All right.
get one?
No.
Okay,
I
no,
thought,
Councilman, thank you, Councilman Thomas and I don't have one.
okay, and then we got, this is real hard to read.
yeah.
Yeah, I was
that-
gonna say, it's,
Magnifying glass.
This is the original, so that's how it came.
That's how it came to you.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, this is, I'm sorry, this is the original and that's how it came, so
Okay.
I just copied it. But this is how much we've spent so far for software for our systems for from IT. And this is for software, for equipments, for backups on top of backups, on top of more backups, for vendor labor that I feel should have been in our contracts. And the first one is B. Like to know, this is the fourth backup request that we've had in 4 years. And I'm trying to understand, why is it every year that we have to have another backup? Is it that we're not calculating enough, or something is not right, or something is amiss here? Why? This is the fourth backup that we've had in 4 years. And from other expenditures we've had, if you can read that or get your magnifying glass, you'll see where we've spent an extremely amount of money, and we're still not stable. And this is very troubling to me. And this is May. And we've had, this $2 million does not include what we've expended the last 2 or 3 months. So it is more. But I want to know, why is it that every year, every other year or so, that we have to have a backup or an upgrade? That, why can't we get a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan, or that includes the labor? If you look on there, you see where we have to, they're charging us for labor. Is that not included in the contract? Why is that a separate entity for, the labor for that? So that, I'd like to know that, and also the same thing for, but if you're just doing B,
All right,
then,
yeah, we're doing B.
okay.
All right, so
And did this go out to bid? That's another question.
okay,
Mayor, Mr. Harmon, your IT manager is coming up. I'm going to suggest we separate this conversation into two pieces. One is the item that's before you, which is this purchase item B, which Glenn can answer the questions about the need for that. And then if we want to deal with this piece of paper also, maybe we can do that after we get the
yes,
specifics
I
of this
agree.
purchase.
So the item before us is the purchase of the maintenance for network equipment and software. So, Mr. Harmon?
And what's your question on that particular item?
The
Question
fact
was,
that-
why do we need another? The allegation is that we've been purchasing backup repeatedly every year. Why are we having to buy more now?
Well, item B has nothing really, very little to do with the backups. Item B has to do with buying maintenance, 8x5 maintenance for various pieces of hardware and software that we've purchased over the last 3 years.
Oh, so item C
It's
was-
called the Cisco SmartNet. There's about, of those items, 125 items, 32 are software, 93 are hardware items including
switches, servers, firewalls, things like that. The software is associated with the software that runs all the hardware, various items that do the various operating systems that run on all those pieces of hardware.
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
seems like there's no end to this. I realized we had to go into an update a system, but this is a lot of money we keep spending here, and it just keeps coming to us. Maintenance, additional, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we spent over $2 million on this. Where does this end? This is a lot of money, and I know it takes a lot to run our city, but I too have to look at this and just sort of shake my head on this.
Councilwoman, I'll answer that question. It never ends.
Yeah.
We are data dependent, technology
realize that.
dependent. It's like saying, when do I get to stop changing the oil in my car? The answer is never. Now, this is unfortunately a lot more expensive than an oil change, but interestingly, this list, I think, can't read it, but I think it's actually from an audit that I commissioned of these purchases
Is that where it came from? Okay.
to make sure that they had all been made according to proper purchasing procedures.
Well, I'm not
And they all were.
questioning that.
But the answer is yes, this stuff is expensive, and it is
I question
ongoing.
the amount of money. You know, we keep looking at where we can cut, but it just keeps coming on.
I think the first thing, I don't think this is 1 year's worth of purchases. I think this is everything we've purchased through this vendor from the beginning of our relationship with them, which goes back 3 or 4 years. So this isn't this year's report. This is an exhaustive list of everything we've purchased over a number of years. And I probably could fairly say that your costs for information technology support, software, maintenance, et cetera, will only continue to go up. That's a fact of our life, and we don't have probably enough bodies now to deal with it, and we'll probably have to look at some of that as we look at the budget. That is our world. I'd love to be able to tell you we can start to cut some of these things back, but there's not a department of the city that doesn't have at least 1 or 2 technology upgrades that would help them function more effectively, things that are available now that were never available before. Police department is one of the prime examples, the things they could do if we had more money for technology. So I'd love to tell you, we've got a handle on it. These numbers are going to come down, but it's going to go the other way. I can pretty much guarantee it.
All right, Vice Mayor Myers.
Okay, would this be so often every year for IT software, any upgrade or any
Maintenance
software?
is forever. Absolutely. Upgrades, the systems are, how many times has the Windows operating system and the word processing that we use, how many, every so many years, is it a new version and a new version and a new version? And then they tell you, well, we're not going to support the old version anymore. And you say, oh, it works perfectly fine for us. I say, well, that's good, but you have to buy the new one because when the old one breaks, we don't support it anymore. That is the game, and nobody hates it any more than I do, but that is the game, and we are completely technology dependent in our operation.
I definitely understand that, since this is my background. To have the upgrades, is this something that we need, or is this a want?
Oh, this is mission critical. I mean, we go, as far as the numbers, you review the budget every summer, and we'll go through that again. We'll go through it again as we do it department by department. We'll tell you exactly what the money is intended for. We're very, very judicious about adding new technology. In fact, I kind of banned it for a while. Nothing new until we have a really good handle on what we already have. The budget time is about a month away. We'll be having those conversations. We'll show you exactly how much and for what, as we do every summer. And we discuss each individual expenditure, and you decide whether or not you want to leave it in the budget. So yes, we'll go through that process. And as we did last July when you workshopped your budget department by department.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm still not satisfied with this amount of money? Is this for 1 year? Is this for multiple years? Is this?
Are we talking about the 50,000 for item B?
Yes, the B, $50,510.35.
That's an annual expense.
This is 50,000 per year.
And that does not include, that's just the infrastructure and the supporting software for the infrastructure. If you're looking at maintenance on about, 80 software line items that we have for applications, every single one of them, including Munis, including Tiburon, including all those have maintenance expenses. The Tiburon maintenance expense is $173,000 a year, per year. The Munis financial systems, about $235,000 per year in maintenance. It's just, that's what it costs to do business.
Okay, I'm not going to go round and round with this. Okay, I'm losing my train of thought here. Okay, so every year then we have to deal with this, maybe. Okay, for when you want to go ahead and vote on that,
Yes,
or
so Ms. Minus, Vice Mayor Minus, we're on C18B, so do you want to, I mean, is this critical that this gets passed? I mean, we have a time certain on this?
We are beyond the window of maintenance that was 31 March.
Okay, all right, so you want to go ahead and make a motion to approve?
no,
No, okay, all right, so I'm going to make a motion to approve C18B, as stated in
Second.
council's package.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve. This will be under 19B. I approved Mayor Meehan, second by Ms. Lopez. Discussion?
Yeah, quick question.
Yeah, Mr. Alfrey.
Yeah, Ms. Minus, what's your thought on this? Because as you said, this is kind of your specialty, and we all have our specialties. I mean, I'd like to know more. I mean, what is your thought?
My thought is that looking at the reports and having a meeting with the city manager and with other individuals who also are very knowledgeable in this area, plus my knowledge of it, is that this is not mission critical to me. I don't see where it's mission critical. It's and with this coming from this particular vendor, Presidio, where we've spent over $2 million, is another issue, and also with C. I don't see where this. I don't see that we're gonna that City Hall is gonna crash and burn if we don't pay the $50,000, and to be very cognizant and as cognizant of our expenses that we're spending for everything that we do for the city. $50,000 is a lot of money. It can go a whole lot farther with other some of our other projects we have. Probably even help Miss Cleveland. Okay. But no, I cannot support purchasing this Cisco SmartNet.
Mayor?
Mr. McNeese.
Yeah, all I can say is the test for us, whether we need to do something isn't, will the city crash and burn without it? Mr. Harmon manages this section, and I get that he's got a couple critics, some of them are in the room, who object to the fact that a lot of what we purchase is through a dealer, Presidio. The actual products, a lot of them are not Presidio products. They're an authorized dealer that we use because they're on. We've been able to piggyback through other organizations who have gone through bid processes to qualify them as a vendor that we have used them a lot. I have no love for or against Presidio one way or the other. Mr. Harmon believes this is something that we need to keep our network functional. I believe him. And for example, he suggests the dollars seem to all of a sudden be the concern. He mentioned that the maintenance of our financial system. You keep hearing about Munis. Well, that's our overall financial system. Accounting, payroll, everything we do that has money goes to Munis. We spend $250,000 a year maintaining Munis. Over the period of this report, that's $1 million over 4 years just to maintain Munis. We could shut down our financial system and save that $250,000. Would the city crash and burn? Well, I guess in that circumstance it probably would. This is expensive. This is, as Glenn said, this is the price of doing business.
May I?
Okay.
The maintenance that we're doing here, this $50,000, is the equipment and network that actually, and servers that Munis runs on, that Tiburon runs on. And so if we have some built-in redundancy there.
Your police department software that they use for all their data and things that run the police department.
Their CAD system, the computer-aided
Their computer-aided dispatch
is one that runs on this stuff. And so we've designed it so that there's redundancy in there. But the reason it's only $50,000 and not twice that much is because we have redundancy built in. And so we're doing a lower level set of maintenance, 8x5, X business day versus 7x24, 4 hour. So we selected a lower level of maintenance because of what we've done in other areas to make sure that those critical services are still operational.
Mayor?
Yes, Vice Mayor
Okay, definitely, that's a gimme on our critical projects, programs, and departments on what they need. We can go back and forth all day with this. We can talk about the cabinets that was purchased for the fire department that is no longer used over 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
That they're stored. What is that? $30,000, $40,000, $50,000?
Not for cabinets.
Or some.
Not for cabinets. There are some
quite a
cabinets that we
bit.
did, but it's not that much.
Okay, so definitely Munis and the fire department and everything else that we have, definitely, that's no problem. I have no problem in supporting this. I am a proponent, a 110% proponent. However, when there is a flag to me that there is overspending, wasteful spend, in my opinion, on resources that we can use elsewhere, then that is an issue for me.
It is for me too, ma'am.
If there's an issue for me, then, I can't bury my head in the sand and say, okay, go ahead and do it when I see smoke.
Yeah, nobody's asking you to do that. I will gladly meet with you and show you all the stuff and explain it.
I'm taking you up on it next week.
Okay. Mayor.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right,
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas.
So is this a contract that y'all send out for bid every year, or is this a sole source?
This is the state competitively did these contracts. It's a piggyback contract. There's a number of levels of companies that can provide these services.
It's on a
Dimension
GSA
Data is
contract,
another
isn't
one, IBM. There's lots of companies that are on these contracts that can provide those kind of services.
Okay, and this was the best price that we got for what we wanted? Or do you specifically have to have the Unisys brand? And that's what my question is this more of a sole source type of thing because of the uniqueness of the equipment, or?
No. Like I said, I've done business with Dimension Data as well in another life. They're just as good, and they handle it. So it's not a sole source for necessarily the professional services. However, there is some continuity in there that we started with them to build the architecture and the design that we're almost finishing up right now. So once that's done, we can go with anybody that has that kind of capability. They're a worldwide organization.
Let me make sure one thing, because I think something's missed. Unless I'm mistaken, it's the Cisco product, the maintenance product itself is sole source. It is, you have, or is that not, or could it be? Okay.
No. I mean, you can get Presidio is a VAR, a value-added reseller. There's lots of value-added resellers that provide those services and things. And so, if you were to say, I was going to go to a architecture that was other than that, then Yeah, I guess you could say that the hardware itself, as a brand, would be sole source, but we're talking about different things.
Talking about which vendor we're going to procure it through, which seems to be the bone of contention.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So,
All right, any other questions?
Okay, just one more
Yes.
question. Looking at this micro print here, I see where there were 3 different expenses. It says that it did not go to bid. Did these go to bid?
Really didn't
Do
go
we
to
have
bid.
to,
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
okay, this is the outside report that was generated, okay? And I'm looking at the 3 expenses, yeah.
I can't read it. I apologize.
First was correct SPF VDI system, new redundant core switches, $674,955. In the notes, it says proper piggyback contract requires quote to services in excess of $15,000. No evidence of quotes on file, on hand. And that was 3 different times. So to see that, I'm asking, did these go to bid, or should they have gone to bid as well, or get a quote, another quote other than Presidio, or besides
The item
Presidio?
that's before you has received a full review from our procurement department and did meet procurement requirements. Yes, it is a piggyback contract as stated in your agenda package. It is piggybacking on a state contract where a proper bid was obtained by the state. We're using that contract as our purchase authority. It's been reviewed by your procurement department and approved to bring to you for your approval.
And in most cases, I'll say, in most cases, Bridget, who's one of the procurement people, she validates every single price against those contracts. And in probably 80% of the cases, Presidio undercuts that price that's on the contract, and she can validate that.
Okay, one more question and I'm done.
Okay.
Normally, we see when it goes out to bid or quote or whatever, it's in our package on the other companies. I didn't see that in my package for these. If they went out to quote, you said that they went out to bid.
No, actually, that's not what I said. I said we piggybacked a state contract. Now, if what you would like to see is the underlying bidders when the state bid it out, which is what you're saying, because we don't have to bid it out. If we find a valid contract that's gone through an open procurement process, we can, that's what piggyback is. We can say their bid process takes the place of one we now don't have to have because they've already done that. Now, if what you're saying, if you'd like to see their underlying bids and say who were the people who bid on that contract when it was awarded by the state, we can get that. That information exists. It'll be a lot, but it exists.
There's 100 plus
Yeah, there
vendors on
probably
that
is.
contract.
Yeah,
I have a
Ms.
question with that.
Thomas.
When we do that piggyback, we're saving money by doing it that way, correct? Because now we're not having to do the whole bid process.
You're saving a lot of time and through that a lot of money.
Basically, what you're saying is the bid process has occurred. It just hasn't occurred internally through us. It's occurred through the other who we are now piggybacking on.
Right, and the most important thing then when we do that is to make sure we've trued up or we've reality checked the pricing.
Right.
As Glenn says, he's checked, and in some cases, Cisco will even beat, or other vendors will beat that state contract price. But that's what we want to be sure is we don't just assume that because that's happened, that that's the best price we can get. We use that when we feel like it is the best price.
Right. So basically, what we're saying is we're not just picking a company. We have done this bid process, but through somebody else.
Right, and if we feel like, well, that pricing doesn't look that good based on what we know about the marketplace for some this or that product, we can say, well, we'll do a bid anyway because we don't think their price is competitive enough. We have that. We certainly do that a lot too.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Vice Mayor Minus? No?
Good,
All
thank
right.
you.
I have a motion. Ms. Weiser, I think I made the motion for approval and second by Mr. Alfrey. Can you clarify that?
I think it was by.
Or was
No,
it
it wasn't me,
Lopez?
no.
It was me.
It was
Okay.
Ms. Lopez.
It was Lopez, okay. Let me write that down. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm here.
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
I'm very glad that taking the opportunity to really look at what the city is spending in different areas. So kudos to you.
All right. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. The nay was Vice Mayor Minus. All right, so item 19,
May I make a comment?
yes.
Yes, no,
Mr.
and I
Alfrey.
want to, Ms. Minus, I want to thank you for this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to reach out to you because I want more information on this because, one thing about saving money for, I'm about that, and you made some valid points, and this is definitely something that, I understand the bid process very well, but to me, it's not about whether the bid process, it's whether this stuff is crucial or not. Do we really need this? Because I could go to Best Buy and buy all day long. Doesn't mean I need everything. So again, thank you, Ms. Minus.
Just as a sideline, I can tell you that there's at least 3 examples that I can show you that have saved a ton of money. One was $100,000 on a Microsoft agreement that we've done because of some stuff we've done. The Tiburon renewal that we did ended up, because of the way we did with the VDI technology and things, over a 5-year period saved $600,000 just in those 2 things. So it's not that we don't look at that kind of stuff, we do. And we make decisions on how we can do best to provide that service.
Well, and I will say to that comment, I retired from the city and I've seen a lot of stuff purchased we don't need. So I will say on that end, that to my understanding, there was stuff bought at the PD. To my understanding, it's still in the closet. And so I'm going to nitpick all this.
Okay.
So that's where I sit.
And I would say we welcome and encourage all of those questions in about 2 months from today when we start walking you through the budget, because that's where everything that you're approving, when it comes to the line where it says this is a part of your approved fiscal 17-18 budget, that means you've already seen it once. Or as we go through that this summer, that's the time, because I promise you, we have these battles in my conference room trying to figure out, and I bet you more of his budget hit the floor last year than got approved. So this isn't it's certainly not Christmas time when we go through the budget.
All right, 19C, Vice Mayor Minus.
Right. Again, Mayor, I'm not going to go and just review everything, just play it back. I still have a concern about this, and this is $57,000, $353.10. It's a lot of smoke to me. Okay, reviewing everything else. Is this necessary? Is it needed? Is it, so I'm gonna pass on this, Mayor, for this one. Also, under the city manager's report, where he approved, and this is Presidio again. Everything is Presidio. We don't have Morse, we don't have anyone else, but everything, and this VEAM, the VEAM Backup and Replication Center license that the city manager approved, within his purview of his expenses, $19,000, Presidio again. So I definitely want to get with you as soon as possible. There's a lot of smoke here. I hope there's no fire. So I have a lot of concerns about these.
Mayor?
All right, Mr. McNeese.
I'm going to look something right square in the eye here. There's been allegations that there's some sort of an improper relationship between Mr. Harmon and Presidio. I would encourage the gentlemen who are making those accusations that if they have evidence of that, to please bring it to me. I've spent an enormous amount of time with them, collectively and individually. I've seen no direct evidence whatsoever that this improper relationship exists. If it does, bring it, please, and I'll act on it. Beyond that, I think this is a completely improper venue to rake Mr. Harmon over the coals based on these unfounded, unevidenced accusations, and I think we should probably act on these items and move on.
Mayor?
Mr. Alfrey.
I disagree with that because right now we are the city council, the governing body of Melbourne, and I will nitpick everything in this city. And if somebody doesn't like the way we nitpick, they need to find another job. Because it is serious and no one is accusing anybody. I haven't heard one accusation of anything being improper, but the fact is I am not a rubber stamp here. So I mean, I will look into this and I'm sure you will meet with me and when you have time, we have time and we'll work this out. But there is no I have not heard one accusation up here. What I have heard is somebody trying to be physically responsible and getting me paperwork of $2 million, and I work for the taxpayer. So I take offense to that because I've been in front of this city with issues that I've got, and I feel they were never resolved. So before we go down that road, I think we need to just understand this is the venue.
Yeah, I haven't taken any offense from what Ms. Minas has said.
Yeah. Councilman Alfrey, let me clarify what I'm saying. Obviously, these items are here for your approval, and what I'm suggesting is that discussion is great. This piece of paper that isn't a $2 million worth of purchases in 1 year.
I'm aware of that.
It's actually back up from a report that I commissioned to have done and has been looked at very closely. You have been made aware of these accusations.
Absolutely.
Which is why I'm bringing them up, and I'm asking if there's evidence of them. I would love to see it too, and I would love to be able to chase that down. Don't mean to imply in any way that you all aren't welcome to do the same thing, and I'm sure you do. You do a lot of that.
And I stand by, if we have there's always, like my motto, something's always on fire, we'll just put the fire out and we'll fix it. But unless we really, we don't know the issue, we can't fix it. And again, I have no problem with Ms. Minas bringing this forward. And I thank her. Thank you, Ms. Minas.
All right.
Can I address this particular issue so that you know what you're voting on?
All right, so we're on item 19C.
Right.
That's what we have in front of us.
So I'd like to finish this comments that were made before
right,
we
so-
move in
all
to
right.
19C.
Okay.
Before 19C, we've already finished 19B.
Yeah.
So we're on 19C, so that's what we got to discuss,
I
so we
know.
can move on.
I know. But when I made the comments that I made, there was nothing direct towards the director and his capabilities. It was just questioning the amount because these things keep cropping up and cropping up and cropping up.
Right.
And so I needed to know why this is a continuous sort of thing. And he gave us the answers for this. So, but I think it's within our purview to be able to say why, but not directing it at you as the director, but giving me an explanation of the whys.
And I'd
on
be
this.
more than happy to tell you.
Okay.
All right.
So I needed to clarify that, Mayor.
Okay.
And Ms. Moore, I didn't take, and me personally, I thought what you said was correct. You asked a good question, a valid question. And I didn't take any offense or it was a shot against anyone either.
Exactly.
At all, not at all.
Right. All right.
So the history of this is, back when I first got here, you had a nightly backup that took 52 hours. A daily backup, 52 hours. That doesn't even make sense. And it was a backup that never hardly succeeded. We replaced it with a data domain 2500. It took that thing down from the 55 hours to 22. We ever do incrementals, and we've been doing that backup for probably almost 3 years. The data has grown, and so we talked. Some of the extra backup things are, you have the hardware piece and you have the software piece. So you have backup exec, so you'll see some of that there as a line item, and then the backup hardware. So that's where you get some of what you might perceive as redundancy or multiple purchases. But as we went through, look at the expansion of that for this year, we found out that 2 years later, the original purchase of that box was now end of life. They had just deemed end of life, so it didn't make any sense to do an upgrade or expansion on that box. We looked at the next version of that box, and again, this isn't Cisco, this is EMC. And that 6,300 for just a little bit more storage space in the backup was going to cost $151,000. We looked at other solutions. The ExaGrid came in to play. It has, between that and the Veeam software, we've had some significant successes. We've had that in place as a demonstration in our environment since March. In about a month ago, we had a major communications server failure. You all didn't even see it, because what would normally have taken us over a day, half a day to fix, rebuild the server, reload all that data, terabytes of data, took 2 minutes. So when you're talking about keeping business continuity and the financial system up and running for the day-to-day transactions with our customers, when I say customers, not internal, the UB utility billing guys, people and stuff, that's what it does. So we ended up, this is for $57,000, and it has a technology that allows us to do that failover very quickly. I won't go into the details here, but it has this different technology that allows us to do that, unlike the previous ones. We will take the data domain 2500 that we have already and move that over to the Babcock data center for the police data. So you're not losing anything what we've done there. We're going to be able to back up the police data on that side, the main city hall data and things over here on this side. And between the two of them, give us the extra space to be able to do the necessary backups between all the systems. So that's the bulk of the story. So between, if I'd done just on the backup, the increase from the standpoint of the data domain, it would have cost $151,000 instead of $57,000. So we look at different options, and to make sure that we can cover what it is that we need to do in disaster preparedness and continuity of operations and all that kind of stuff at the cheapest price we can. The original purchase price of the 2,500 was 40-something thousand, I think. And so that 40-something thousand to comparing to the 57,000 with more storage space 3 years later, it's fairly comparable.
Any other?
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
Yes, I'll say it again. I'm glad that someone's looking at what we're spending, but we also have to remember that we have a professional staff that we rely on. They know what they're doing. I'm sure they'd rather use that money for their employment contracts instead. So we have to remember that we are relying on them. And without them, we can't do our work. So that's why I second it.
Okay. All right, so item 19C, so
Mayor,
I need a motion.
Just want to ask again,
Yeah,
did this
Mayor Minus.
did this go through the state process as well? It didn't go to bid or for a quote? It went through the same process?
Yes, this went under piggyback on a
In the
state
piggyback.
yeah, on a GSA contract.
Okay. And this is an annual also, 57,000 annual?
Oh, no, that's the purchase price of it. The maintenance will be significantly lower than that.
All right, to purchase.
That's just the purchase price of the box itself.
Of the box, and then we have to purchase the
Yeah,
maintenance.
Maintenance is usually 15 to 20% of the purchase price per year.
So probably next month or so, then we're gonna see where we're gonna have a maintenance.
This includes a 1-year maintenance.
Oh, this does?
Yes. When we do this stuff, we
Oh,
try
yeah,
to make sure that
1-year
we have
maintenance.
1-year maintenance included, or in fact, in some of the software stuff we do, we try to do it such that there's like a 5-year maintenance. So we don't have to come back all the time and do what's normal, just normal day-to-day maintenance activities with you all. Plus, it gives you more visibility on what the costs are.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, so I need a motion on 19C.
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
move for approval of the purchase of the ExaGrid backup storage for City Hall, Presidio Network Solutions, Orlando, Florida, $57,353.10.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for 19C, as stated in council's package by Ms. Thomas and second by Ms. Lopez. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Also, 19J got removed by Ms. Lopez.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank Allison Dorsey for including the paragraph in the contract that states that they have to make, all nonprofits from now on have to maintain their 501c3 status in order to continue with the contract. So I want to say that excellent clause in these contracts. Now, of course, I'm going to approve this agreement. I have no problems with the agreement. My problem is, why do we wait so long for this building to have so many problems that now these tenants are going to be facing a lot of repairs? What I would suggest is, from now on, that the city should start looking and inspecting their city-owned community centers before it gets to this stage. I mean, now they have to take care of their electrical system, plumbing, their roof, and so forth. So if they would have known ahead of time, each year, what repairs they had to do, I'm sure they would have budgeted their resources to take care of them. And that's my only problem. I think we should start looking at that from now on.
I kind of agree. I think we need to look at all these contracts, especially $1 a year, and look at what we're doing and what the tenant is doing.
That's correct.
We really need to look at these contracts.
So I motion.
Mayor, just before.
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor minus.
I can agree that they should maintain a 501c3 and should be held accountable for that. However, for item J, for the Delta Life Center, I can assure you, or you may have one of them to come up and confirm that they are maintaining the building the way they should, or the way they've asked. If it's raining, then I'm sure they're not standing there with the bucket, that they try to get it resolved. The electrical, whatever, any issues that they have, to my understanding, it's been done. So, and this is what we're entertaining, so I don't think it's an issue with item J in this case.
It's not, my problem is, it's stating here, all these repairs need to be done.
Yeah.
And the roof is it's in a very poor condition. Now, how do you expect people to live in this type of environment where the roof is leaking, the electric system is shot, and the plumbing? There's no excuse for that. So the city has to make sure that these buildings are kept up to par.
Mayor.
That's it.
Vice Mayor. The thing I read here is the city has made the following repairs at its own expense, which was to install the gutters and downspouts, repair leaks to the existing roof, seal a crack in the main hall floor. Those are the things that, does the city have to do that? That was kind of like my concern.
Okay. But the others are major items. But the city took care of it, looks like minor, which is okay. I like that they did that.
Yeah.
But they need to do more. I know that they're supposed to maintain it.
Yes.
But all I'm saying is the city should inspect these buildings so they could at least know what they can expect to repair.
So can we pull this contract and revise it so that we can do the inspection?
Well, if I could just interject and give a little background here. So
Okay.
as I understand it, and this was, I'm sorry, I think Nicole can speak to it. She has worked on it as well, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ms. Patterson, you're with, your assistant to the city manager. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I've been working with the Delta organization, and we had an inspection completed by facilities maintenance. Scott Porter completed the inspection, I want to say he completed on June the 1st of 2017, and he did the building condition assessment, which is where we got the big list of items that was recommended to be repaired and completed. In that, he found that there were several just minor fixes that needed to be taken care of, and the Deltas have rectified those problems. And we have the big concern about the roof. The roof condition, he, in his opinion, said is about 3 to 5 years out before it needs to be completely replaced, which is why we wrote the lease to come to basically a 5-year term with the conditions of an option to renew for 3 years and a second option to renew for a second year, just depending on basically the roof condition. So we have completed the building assessment. He did not do a structural assessment because we don't have a certified PE there that can do a structural assessment on the building and give us shelf life for it. So that is something that was recommended. I'm not sure where we're going with that. Possibly going to look into getting one, maybe. I'm working with engineering now, but I don't have anyone here to say yes or no to a time frame for that. But we have, like we said, completed the roof repair. It leaked again. They went back out there and they repaired it for a second time. So the second time they feel confident that it's not leaking. And have you guys seen any leaks or anything since this big major rainstorm? No? Okay. Well, I believe that the building has been repaired properly for the roof now, but again, it has 3 to 5 years time frame on it.
All right, so whose responsibility is for the roof?
And if I could give a little background on, the Delta sorority also had the previous lease on this same building, and they were responsible for the repairs to the building. For whatever reason, those were not done, and so when they were about to renew their lease or to enter into a new lease, there's really a business decision that you're making as a city council. Usually, the trade-off is there's a building that we have that has extended its useful life for the city. And so the city council decides, are you going to charge rent that's nominal, $1 a year, and require the tenant to take on the maintenance responsibilities, even the major ones like the new roof or the heat and air conditioning system, all of them, because the city doesn't have any further use for this building. Someone in the community has seen it and can put it to use, and so that's the public service that we've provided them, the $1 a year lease. But with that, they are responsible for figuring out their costs, what it's going to take to run it. The idea that the city repaired some of the items that were in disrepair before we renewed this lease really was simply the reality that the organization didn't have the cash flow to bring it up to standards at this point in time. And so in the interest of continuing their nonprofit efforts, the city contributed towards that. There was never any obligation to do that. That was a voluntary effort on the part of the city to contribute towards that.
Which I appreciate very much. My problem is not that they're not responsible to fix this. I'm aware of that. I mean, that's why they only pay $1.
That's right.
Which is great. But my problem is that either every year or every other year, the city should be inspecting these buildings and let the tenant know ahead of time what they can anticipate in their budget on the expenses that have to be done to these buildings, and not wait till the repairs become major.
Now, we have the right of entry and we can do that. My question then, right now the lease is set up such that if we find something that's not being maintained, we would not be breaking the lease.
Okay.
And my question is, do you want me to have a hard break in that lease if they're not doing the repairs?
Well, my thing is, as long as they know that they need to do this repair,
okay,
so they can put it in their budget, that's all I want.
Okay.
They should be inspected.
On your
That's
microphone.
all.
Okay. So, all right, so Vice Mayor Minus?
I was trying to tell her to get to a mic.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that I understand what you're saying. And with all of the properties that we have that for $1 that we're renting to the companies, I don't have any problem in that. Yes, you can do an annual walkthrough. Same thing you do with code enforcement. You know, the same concept. I don't know who would get to do it or what, but it can be an annual, you know, so that they'll know, well, we already know now in 3 to 5 years they're going to need another roof. So, you know.
Well, may I interject?
Oh, I'm sorry.
They have started making repairs to the building because they do want to continue to lease with them. They've made major repairs like change the HVAC system. They're installing impact windows because they're trying to seal the envelope to basically eliminate all the waste that was happening with the HVAC system and all the condensation from the roof and everything. So they're making big repairs. They've painted the inside. We've done things on the outside of the building just to make sure that they can, you know, stay in the lease as long as possible. So they are bringing the building up to standard as soon as they can.
Okay.
I have no problem with that. I think they should keep it.
All right. Yeah, Mr. Alfrey.
I too think they should keep it, especially if they're doing this. I just think we need to come up city-wise for another day. We need to discuss better maintenance plans, something, because, you know, you take a building for $1 a year, that's great, and I'm all for it. I mean, we're not using the building, I agree. You know, we've written it off or whatever, but there is, just like a home, an annual cost. I mean, is it fair for them, you know, to have to put a new roof on? Because roofs are not cheap. And it's rough for them. And of course, they're going to want to extend it as long as they can. And one thing we as a company, tell our clients, get as long as you can. I mean, as long until it's falling apart. So I think we need to, as a city, just come to, you know, have another meeting or a discussion agenda item where we can just say, hey, we need to either budget some stuff in or change it from $1 a year to $250 a year, and that will include some of the stuff that needs to be done or whatever we got to do. But I think we need to have another discussion. I'm all for them keeping it. I thank you for doing the maintenance you're doing, and we'll just, like I said, I'll stand from there.
Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. McNeese.
If we've learned anything over these not-for-profit $1 a year city facilities over the last few years, it's what you're suggesting, Councilwoman Lopez, is exactly what I believe we should do and what we intend to do. Have an annual schedule where we have our facilities folks go through these buildings in a formal way, assess their condition, and see how we're doing. Right. Now, I don't think we necessarily have to say that if there's anything that's amiss, we can hard stop the lease.
Right.
That's a little harsh. It's kind of going to depend on the circumstances. We're doing these things differently now than we did. You'll recall recently the lease we did with the Boy Scouts up on Post Road. That's a great success story. They've done a great job up there, and that's the kind of thing we want to encourage. And so that's exactly what we want to do. We need to do a better job with these. We've had them bite us in different ways in the last year or two. I have to thank the Deltas because Nicole points out that this assessment of this building was done June of 2017. We sat down together May or June for the first time, I think, knowing that their lease was going to expire in January, if I remember correct, of 2018, thinking that, we've got lots of time. We'll get this all figured out and get the new lease nailed down in time before it expires in January. Well, it ended up taking a lot longer than that. And they, to their credit, I didn't know if they'd get there, but brought volunteer labor to the table. I think they probably worked their husbands to death in getting this thing done. Okay. And staff came up with some creative ways to deal with this. Nicole and Kevin Brisky came up with some good ideas how to structure this in a way that we kind of try to maximize the life of the roof. Because what I told the Deltas was, if the city has to pay the money to put a new roof on this building, we wouldn't do it. We would just tear it down because it doesn't have, we have a community center that's not very far away from there. We wouldn't put the money in the building. They have a good use for it. They don't necessarily have the resources to buy a new roof. So we've tried to figure out a way, and staff's done a really good job. They've done an amazing job of keeping their promises and doing the things they said they would do. and we're here to bring this thing to you. Let's keep it going. And your suggestion to formalize an annual inspection for all these buildings is a really good one. We're going to do that. We'll take that on. And I think that's a great idea.
Mayor?
All right, I got Ms. Moore and then Ms. Lopez.
I commend the Deltas. They just do a great job in that building. I've been there and with the youth, and those youth are our future citizens, and any strength and anything that we can give them in the way of guidance and support and just give them as much love as we can give them. And I see these ladies do this, and so I just have to support your project here all the way.
All right, Ms. Lopez.
Yes, I motion to approve item number 19J.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve 19J by Ms. Lopez, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, item number 20. Let me get right to it. Item number 20. All right, so this is Habitat for Humanity of Brevard County, Inc., Purchase Assistant with the Sweat Equity Program. This is under the Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer?
Yes, this is a request for approval of an agreement awarding $95,000 in SHIP funds to the Habitat for Humanity of Brevard County so that they can implement the city's Purchase Assistance with Sweat Equity Program. Habitat has implemented and administered the city's Purchase Assistance Program for several years now. Basically, the scope of this program is a purchase assistance for very low and low income home buyers that are purchasing homes. The first mortgage is held by Habitat, and then there's also a second mortgage note held by the city. As this program operates as a deferred loan program for up to a 10-year period. The assistance amounts are in the range of $30,000 to $35,000, depending upon the household income. And Habitat does require the home buyers to put in a minimum of 250 hours of sweat equity before they can receive a home. And Habitat also requires the new home buyers to go through a home buyer education program as part of the overall program. There is funding available in the 2017-2018 SHIP funds, and with that, staff would recommend approval of the agreement with Habitat of Humanity of Brevard County for implementation of the Purchase Assistance with Sweat Equity Program, awarding $95,000 in 2017-2018 State Housing Initiative Partnership Program funds, and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. This is, any questions for Ms. Dittmer? Seeing none. This is public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? All right, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Ms. Minus.
No.
Excuse me, Ms. Moore.
Before I make the motion, I just want to add that anywhere where Habitat has been involved in building these houses, the crime rate has dropped considerably because it becomes a family besides being a neighborhood. And so I move for approval of the agreement with the Habitat for Humanity of Brevard County, Inc. for implementation of the purchase assistance with the Sweat Equity Program, awarding $95,000 in the 2017-18 State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program, funds and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number 20 as stated in council's package by Ms. Moore, second by Ms. Lopez. Discussion?
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
I wanted to tell you that I went 2 weekends ago, for that women weekend of working there. And I was surprised of how many women were there working. And it's the whole block that they have built these homes. It was a wonderful experience.
Yes.
And they stated over and over again how grateful they are to the city of Melbourne for their continuous support. So forget it. I'm very passionate about this, which we all are. So
That's right. I had the mayor's challenge, so I couldn't go. All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. If there's no objection, council will convene as the Babcock Street Community Redevelopment Agency for item 21. This is Babcock Street CRA, the Facade Improvement Program Application BFG-2018-01. That's 478 North Babcock Street. And this is Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dimmer.
Yes, this is a request for approval of a facade improvement program grant in the amount of $30,000 for exterior renovations to the building located at 478 North Babcock Street. The exterior renovations will include refinishing the stucco, painting the exterior walls and the mansard roof, replacing soffit, windows, doors, signage, accent lighting, fencing and landscaping, as well as resurfacing the parking lot. You can see the before picture, the current picture now, and that's the proposed exterior improvements. They total approximately $78,000. The applicant is eligible for up to $40,000 facade improvement grant as it's a multi-storefront building. The Babcock Street CRA Advisory Committee did vote unanimously to recommend a $30,000 CRA grant, and there is funding available within the current capital improvement project within the Babcock CRA facade improvement program. And with that, staff would recommend approval of the Babcock Street CRA Facade Improvement Program grant in the amount of $30,000 for 478 North Babcock Street, and authorization for the city manager to execute a grant agreement.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
I have a question.
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
How long do they have to keep this property after they receive that amount of money from us?
How long do they have to
keep the property before they sell the property after getting this money?
You know, I am not sure of the answer to that offhand, and I do know we have some criteria related to the program, and I can get back with you guys and let you know the answer to that, but I do believe there is some criteria.
Okay, because I don't want them getting this money, improving the property to be able to sell it right away. So if you can get back to us.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right,
Something in
Ms.
my
Moore.
mind says that there was like, in the O'Galley area, there was some discussion. And as I say, in the back of my mind, it was like 5 years, which was basically a minimum, because there were a few there. But trust her to come back on this one. As I say, I just picked this out of my mind because we had several buildings that were in need. And, but it wasn't as extensive as this. It was a $5,000 grant, which this is much more.
It's a good program, definitely.
Well,
Yeah, Mr. Alfrey.
yeah, you know, it is a good program, but I have an issue with the program because, I mean, so if you're not in a CRA and you own a business, you don't get any money to fix up your property. That, to me, that's kind of unfair. I mean, any of the maintenance I do to my commercial buildings, I got to pay every dime out of my pocket. And I would like you to come back, because why wouldn't I go buy property in CRA and get some city money, fix it up, turn around and walk off to the bank with it? So that's just my opinion. And I'm not saying anybody's going to do that, but I'm just saying that's my thought on it.
Yeah, and that's the purpose of the CRA. I mean, you know, so yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, and I agree with that as well. I think, again, with the CRA money, you're picking winners and losers, and I really think these facade improvements need to be paid for by the business owner and not by the taxpayer. And so I can't support this.
All right, any other discussion? All right, so council, what is your pleasure? Item 21.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Moore.
I will move for approval of the Babcock Street CRA Facade Improvement Program grant in the amount of $30,000 for 478 North Babcock Street,
Second.
and authorization for the city manager to execute a grant agreement with the applicant.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number C21, as stated in council's package by Ms. Moore, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
All right, I got 2 nays. That's Councilmember Alfrey and Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
And I vote aye. Item 22 is resolution number 3743. Let me get right to it. Item 22. All right, community development, Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is a request for approval of a resolution to convey 484 square feet of a piece of property located on the east side of Babcock Street, north of Avenue D, located in the Babcock Street CRA, and granting it to the city of Melbourne for the purpose of acquiring right-of-way along with a sidewalk utility and drainage easement for the Babcock Street Phase 3B roadway project. The Babcock Street Phase 3B roadway project is in final design stage. The project runs from where we finished off Phase 3A at Brevard Drive, or Brevard Avenue, down to Apollo Boulevard. The project's going to include a reconstruction of the roadway, a slight widening of the right-of-way so that the medians can be accommodated within the roadway. There'll also be new utilities, crosswalks, lighting, landscaping, along with a continuous sidewalk that'll run along the east side of the roadway. Staff has obtained the necessary deeds and easements from 12 separate properties along that part of the corridor. And the Babcock Street CRA actually owns 2 properties on the east side of the road. So the CRA is being asked to donate a 2-foot strip of property for the right-of-way for the road widening, and also a 6-foot wide sidewalk utility and drainage easement across both of those properties that are owned by the CRA. And with that, staff would recommend approval of resolution number 3743.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? All right, so this is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? All right, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Mr. Thomas.
Recommend approval of resolution number 3743.
A second.
I have a motion for approval of resolution 3743 by Mr. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion?
I will add that I drove over, I'm familiar with the area, and this is going to be a real asset, being able to put in the sidewalk in that area.
That's right. All right. So those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. If there's no objection, council will reconvene for the following items. Item D, petitions, remonstrances, and communications. Item 23, and I believe that's Miss Allison Dolly.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, this is just simply a communication item. We don't usually have something like this on our agenda, so I really don't need council action. It's really just an apology that I don't have the materials that I need to bring the item back to you yet. I'm still gathering information about costs, and without that information, I just don't think it would be a particularly fruitful discussion. So I hope to bring that information to you at the first meeting in August.
Okay, all right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just got one
Mr.
thing.
Alfrey.
Actually, I want to give big kudos out to Chief David Gillespie, and I'll explain why real quick. I'm going to put him on the seat real quick. One of the things I've been working on is to bring what's called HR 218, which is the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act, or LEOSA, to Melbourne. And what it does is it allows our former officers, guys that spent, anything over 10 years, 15 years, federal law allows them to carry a concealed firearm or in anywhere in the country. So many of our officers that served, and they have done the time, they now can to exercise that right under LEOSA. Perfect example, besides myself, Mrs. Thomas's husband, a lot of them now, they can do that. And I want to thank not only him, but our staff, our city attorney's office. This was a pretty big deal. I know there was a lot that had to get done, and they've already started issuing the identification. But I just want to say personally thank you, because not only does it mean a lot to a lot of officers, and I've got dozens and dozens that are saying thank you, but it means a lot to me, and it's definitely a step in the right direction, and I greatly appreciate it, Chief. I think we hired the right guy for the job, and I'm going to say it now again. Thank you, sir.
Chief.
All right, thank you. All right,
Mayor.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes, just want to let everybody know for public information that I'll be speaking at Honor America for Memorial's Day. And again, I'm doing that to support veterans. It's not an endorsement of any 501(c), but there just to support the veterans and to speak. In addition to that, I was contacted by a gentleman by the name of Art Grinchy, and Art apparently had a piece of the building from 9/11 from New York that was brought down that's on display at the museum. He contacted me, and he would like to retrieve that from the museum and then take it to the Veterans Memorial Center in Merritt Island and have it put there. So I don't know if there's anything administratively that he has to go through the city, or does he just bring his truck down there and load it up and move it out?
I have to ask you on that.
Mm-hmm.
Is he talking about a piece of the steel?
Yes.
It was my understanding that he already has that, or somebody has it. The piece of steel that is there now, that is approximately 3.5, 4 feet long, that was secured by the museum, and we sent someone to New York to pick up that piece of steel. The one that he was talking about, it was my understanding, was much larger. So I'm certainly hoping that he doesn't feel that that is his piece, because it is not the one that's on display right now.
Okay, then we might have a problem that we probably need to get with the city attorney or the city manager about.
Wait, this is an item that the property is leased by another organization. As when you lease out property, it's to their exclusive use. So we are not allowed to go in and seize anything in there that would be violating the lease.
Right.
And so we need to be careful that we understand that our role here is as the landlord, and we don't have the right to go in and take and distribute any of that property.
So what I need to tell him to do is contact city manager then?
No, the city is not involved in that.
Okay, so just
it's an
don't pick
Honor
it up.
America. No.
What about the president of the group?
Yeah,
That would be
you have
him.
to go through Greg Overton.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
We can put him in touch with Mr. Overton if he doesn't
Okay.
have that contact information.
Yes, talk to
Yeah.
Mr. Overton, and that would be a board decision,
That's right.
Tim. So, because that's not his piece of steel.
Well, he said he used his own money to bring it down to Florida and everything else, so we might have an issue.
I'm sorry, you and I will talk.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
afterwards, since it's not I have something, please.
All right, Ms. Moore.
Two things. Number one, I've spoken to the city manager about this, and we're going into hurricane season again. And we haven't even been able to pick up all the debris from last September's hurricane. I have wood sitting all over from fencing and etc. And some of the people, their priorities were to get the roof fixed and left the fencing go until they had money to repair the fencing. So now they've got this, they did the fencing themselves. It's sitting there. It's gathering rodents. I can give you an address where she's putting out rat poisoning because she's seeing rodents around it. We need to talk about, we used another contractor. We didn't use FEMA to pick up this stuff because of cost, I understand. I need this wood picked up around the city, and without a cost to the owner. They're already paying for pickup and waste pickup, so I'm not sure. How are we going to handle this? I need to know this.
Okay. Mr. McNeese?
I don't have definitive information. I know that the waste management yard waste people who would pick up normally wood will not pick up things that are wood and nails and metal and mixed like that. So we don't have any remaining debris pickup left over from Hurricane Irma of any kind. The circumstances around the person who has replaced their fence and have now hauled it out to the road are no different today than they would be on any other day. It's their responsibility to have it either hauled away or to take it to the landfill or to have their contractor, if they have a contractor, haul it away. So
These are
If-
people who did their fencing themselves, bought at Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever, and did it themselves.
I understand that. And so, but it is not, at the present time, it is not the city's responsibility to haul that away. If you want us to allocate some money to do that, that's something we can look at. But we don't have a program for that in waste management. I know we'll not pick up as yard waste something that has metal and other types of debris in it. They don't do that because they can't mulch it.
Well, I understand that this had to be, with our agreement, and correct me on this, that it had to be done by a certain date, these people, if they wanted this stuff to pick up.
Our our contract to have the hurricane debris picked up ended months ago. That process is over and it's completed, so there's no way to access that contract. Those haulers are gone.
If these people can't afford it, then we're just gonna have this trash sit around in their side yards and their alleys, and I don't really know what to.
Well, ultimately, at that point, it becomes a code enforcement issue, and that's the ultimate destiny. So,
Then are we gonna do something about it if it becomes a code issue?
typically, yes, we would. But it's the property owner's responsibility, not the city's responsibility.
Well, we better rethink this if we're back into, seriously, on extending this time if we're getting into hurricane season again.
What you're saying extend the time. I think what you probably mean is get someone to pick the things up, because there is no contract to extend. They're
Right.
gone.
But I want one if we're going into hurricane season again. We didn't use FEMA, we used another outfit because we thought we were saving money. Correct? That's what you had said.
FEMA doesn't do any pickup. They don't provide service.
They contracted
What
out.
we did was hire someone directly rather than go with a Brevard County contract with a different vendor. That's what you're referring to. And yes, we did. And our contractor is gone. Brevard County's contractor is gone. There is no residual pickup related to Hurricane Irma. This discussion doesn't have anything to do at this point with Hurricane Irma. It has to do with, I understand that the original damage to the fences may have been caused by Irma.
Correct.
People didn't take them down while we were still hauling the debris. Now the debris is there. That's a perfectly valid issue. It's up to the council to say whether you want to put city resources into paying to have that picked up for those people who are in that condition. I'm not saying one way or the other. That'd be something you all would have to discuss and decide. We can try to make kind of an assessment of some sort, how much of this is out there, and maybe bring back some information to you. I don't know how widespread this is. I know some of the areas where we have some of it, but I have no idea how widespread the issue is.
Well, I'd like, when code is out and about, to perhaps check on it so that we're not using another resource. But I think this needs to be addressed.
Mayor?
Okay, Mr. Alfrey?
Yeah, and there's a good point she brought up. Having owned a trash company for a while, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, misconception, and a lot of the residents aren't educated on how the process works, on what they can pick up, what waste management does. A lot of people think they take a refrigerator and they throw it outside, and waste management just picks it up and takes it away. It doesn't work that way. I would almost like to see some kind of education on our city website, maybe as the water bills go out, on the back of the water bills, hey, when it comes to this kind of garbage, fence and pressure treated lumber stuff, that has to go to COCO.
That's right.
You know, certain things, like educate people, because having the roll-off company, a lot of people wouldn't even know, you know, where to throw these tires or whatever. It's almost like it's a very slippery slope if we're just gonna say, hey, let's start picking all this stuff up, because people are just gonna continuously throw stuff and off in the front lawn expecting us to pick it up.
Exactly.
So we need a lot better education on that and communication with the residents. I think that would be huge and very important, and it will save us a lot of money in a long haul.
And that's the sort of thing that what we call the ECHO department, your environmental and community outreach people who work for Ralph do. And we'll put that on their menu to do some re-education. It's something they kind of do periodically, how recycling works, how the different types of garbage pick work. So we'll put that one on their menu and also with Cheryl Mall, who was here earlier, to reinforce that message of we're kind of talking about construction and demolition debris, how it's handled and how you get it hauled if you need it. And
Also,
we can do that.
I happened to listen to one of the Orlando news stations, and they were talking about the recycling. And I will tell you, listening, I learned a great deal because I was doing things I shouldn't be doing, putting into my recycling bin. And I think this would be a good thing also to put in the pamphlet with our water bills. And the other thing that I would like planning and zoning to look at, please, is Pineapple Avenue. We are still considered US 1, have not been US 1 in 50 years plus. And what happens is we're having a setback problem on Pineapple Avenue because when anybody takes it to planning and zoning or our city, we're still going by the rules of US 1. And we need to address that, please, and look at it. Because we are not US 1. We may be a connector street.
Do you have a specific address of a property that's?
I'll give them to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, and one of the properties is up for sale. It's a vacant lot, and they're going to have the same issues. But we need to get rid of that designation as Pineapple Avenue being US 1. I went through it several years back. The setback would have put you practically into my front living room. And the house had been there for years and years. So we need to address that, please.
This one will be interesting because Cindy and Alice and I are all making the same face. So I'm very curious to find out about that one, see what's what.
As I say, we are. Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
All right, Vice Mayor Minus?
Okay, the organization, the Allen Chapel Community Development, or whatever they were called, I'm sorry, messing up their name. But anyway, the Melbourne Founders Festival is this weekend. I think we all got that in our packet, which really didn't do any justice. I do have the flyers, if I may pass it out. That's the original flyers. It's going to be a great weekend, so please, I look forward to council members to be there to support that. Friday night is the reception. Saturday is the big bash at the Press Street.
$15 donation that night. We just bring it with
Yeah,
us.
that's what I was wondering. Are they going to collect it that night?
Let me work on that.
I think
Okay.
they'd like an RSVP because of the food.
Oh, okay, all right.
I don't think we have to, but let me confirm that, okay? And I'll get with the city clerk by tomorrow. Okay, but it should be a great fun weekend. This is Memorial Day weekend. Please, everyone, be safe.
Yes.
And
Pray for
enjoy the great.
sunshine.
And remember, we do have a Memorial Day parade by the Chapter 81, and that starts at 10 o'clock on Monday. So there will be the fire truck, so on Monday, on Memorial Day. So, all right, anything else? All right, so nothing else? Meeting adjourned at 10:22.
I told you it was going to be a quick meeting.